Cheerio, and welcome to our 5th edition of Flix and a Whisk, the classier and more refined cousin of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Alessandro Biolsi. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the poor thing, Anthony Costanzo. Say hello, chap.
Hello, chap. Chip, chip, cheerio.
You're always thrown off at that part. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what to do with myself, is what it comes down to.
On this week's episode, we'll be incorrectly predicting this year's Oscar winners, but first, what are we drinking?
Well, hang on. I want to pause you right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to be pretty good on this one.
Oh, okay.
I feel like the writing's on the wall for a lot of these awards. So
better or worse than my once-a-year British accent?
I mean, you can only go up from some things.
I always have to like try and get into character because I don't think about it until like 30 minutes before we start recording this episode. Sure. And I'm like, oh, I don't remember how to do my awful accent. That probably doesn't matter. The fact that it's not consistent does not improve or degrade the terrible accent.
It's also like that's infinitely more time thought about it beforehand than me. Because I'm still not thinking about it when you get started, and then like when you're about to hand it off to me, I go, "Oh right, I have to say something next. This is a podcast."
Well, two things. One, it's the one time a year that I like host the show, so right. You have the muscle memory of no matter how many episodes we do that year, you're the one doing that all the time and throwing it to me to introduce myself and only introduce myself.
You're just like, "What are we drinking?" I'm like, "What are we drinking?" Okay, we are drinking Balcones, baby. I actually don't know. Is it Balcones? Balcones?
So we always do this. So actually, because we've had this conversation, like we've had the Basinger conversation like 10 times. So I fucking looked it up before you got on.
Wow. Look, like almost like it's a real production.
Well, listen. Sure, I didn't practice my terrible accent. Practicing wouldn't have helped. Second, this is the least prepared I've been from a perspective of having words on the page in front of me as we kick off the episode. Not preparation for the movies and what we're going to talk about. Fully prepared for that. As prepared, if not more so than
loose
most other
notes, loose production, even looser editing.
Well, I listened to the episode last week. It sounded fine, mostly.
That's great because I almost forgot to cut out the entire pee break.
Ah, well, I mean, at least you couldn't hear it.
I was rusty.
Hey, you had a lot of work to do stitching together 47 starts and stops. So anyway, I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to get us off right. People are going to be thrown by the fact that our hiatus episode came out. Our end of hiatus episode came out the week that our hiatus ended, which was 3 or 4 months after we finished, after we recorded that episode.
Right.
I looked and I was a little disheartened. I mean, I knew we didn't do very well last year, but we've only recorded 10 episodes since the last Oscars.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's been a whole year.
Woof. Wow. All right, we're back on the saddle though.
2023, the lost year.
I think sans sleep regressions, we should be okay.
Sure.
Listen,
I already knew
33.3 repeating more of us in this house now. So
it's true. Since the hiatus ended, the Costanzo family has gained another young boy. They've also gained a new house.
That's right.
So. Yeah,
well, I was here in the last episode.
I think just that one, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So yeah, house, worldwide travel, baby. It was a big year, 2023. We're gonna do
eventful.
At least I would say probably 2 times as many episodes, if not 3 to 4.
I think it's a low. That's a low bar and a reasonable goal.
So we're gonna do it.
The weekly show that we've been doing for
7 years.
7 years that has 223 episodes.
Don't check the math.
We're going to do 3 movies an episode.
1 hour.
We make up for it in Oscar episodes because we do 9 apparently, or more depending on
10 most years.
10. Wow. All that to say, how do you pronounce this?
It's Balcones.
Is it really?
I looked up a video to see. I found the most professional review that I could find because I couldn't find anything from their website itself. Okay. I found the most professional looking review, and that's how they pronounce it. So I'm going to assume that's what it is. We're drinking Baby Blue, which I believe is their flagship.
Whoa. we're drinking Baby Blue.
Two things. Forgot about the emoji thing, and you just did it to me again.
Oh, I did?
I don't know why you grabbing your chest gave me a thumbs up, but...
Oh, he give you some metal? Yeah.
That's pretty sick. Why did you stop me only to say the exact same thing that I said?
Because you threw to me to tell the people what we're drinking.
Oh, okay. You go ahead.
It's a one time a year that I tell the people.
Roll reverse. Well, this is the first time we get the same whiskey, damn it.
This is true. We're drinking Balcones, Baby Blue, made from roasted blue corn, pot distilled, 750 milliliters corn whiskey, 46% alcohol by volume, the original Texas whiskey. This whiskey, this one, has a lovely wax seal on it. Mm-hmm. I love a good wax seal.
Yeah.
A little prestigious.
Specifically with whiskey. It's nice to have that whiskey wax seal, whether it be like the maker's seal at the top of the thing, or any sort of thing like Knob Creek, whatever has like the ones around the thing, or this one has an actual seal with the stamp and everything.
Yeah, so. Which is cool. I tried peeling it off. It didn't go well. Okay, ready? So yes. I am batch BB21-1.
I'm batch TK421. 421 TK.
Why are you not your post?
I'm batch BB22-1.
Oh, we're one off from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Makes some capacity.
We're both in the Northeast, right?
Date 9/27/21.
11/30/22.
Oh wow, mine is closer to the age of the beers in our fridge. A true Texas original, the first Texas whiskey on the market since Prohibition. I'm gonna call bullshit. Baby Blue is crafted from roasted Texas blue corn. This rich and oily maize adds new sophistication to the corn whiskey tradition, while keeping the freshness and verve of classic American distilling. Sorry, it's really small font. And it's not that bold, so it's hard to tell.
Also, it's like it looks like I'm looking at it through an out of focus lens.
Right. Intentionally youthful. That's what I call Al. Baby Blue captures the essence of the prized corn. Prized corn, also what I call Al. With a round nuttiness.
Here I thought you were going to call me the oily maize.
Maize. Roasted overtones and refined complexity. The mouthfeel is viscous with a soft finish. I will say that when I picked this up in the store and I read through it, I read that as the mouthfeel is vicious, and I went, I don't think I want to drink that.
The funny thing is I thought that's how you were going to pronounce it. Not because I don't think you know how to read, but just for some reason I assumed that's what you were going to you were going to trip at the finish line there.
That's right. Certified Texas whiskey, never chill filtered or colored. All right. Nice. Click government warning. Aged at least 12 months in oak.
Okay, that's good.
Balcones Distilling, Waco, Texas. This okay. So here's let's before we taste this one. Mm-hmm. Full disclosure to the audience: Al and I have tasted this one. Al more than me. This is one of the whiskeys from when we did Whiskey Live.
Yes, we've talked about it many times on the show.
But my OG Whiskey Live glass.
Oh fuck! I should have grabbed mine. I didn't think about that.
And I very specifically remember this bottle and this label. And I'm thinking that I like, you know how I am with like can art and stuff. I was like, oh, this one caught my attention, probably because it was the blue. The blue color is really nice. But that being said, I also very specifically remember it's either really, really good or completely underwhelming. Not in between.
So I don't remember what my impression of this was. It was, I think, literally the first one we tried when we got there. Because it was closest to the door. They had that huge table. But I remember
once again, Mr. Schaefer's in first place because he's nearest to the door.
I remember that we tried like 6 of their whiskeys, and I remember I don't remember which of you, me, and Jay liked each of them, but I remember the 3 favorites that we had were all different. One of them was the port cask. One of them was, I think, the Madeira cask. And one of them was the PX cask. I just don't remember who liked which one the best.
But that was Breckenridge.
Was that Breckenridge?
That was Breckenridge.
Oh, yes, you're right. No, that was Breckenridge. Sorry. This is one of the last whiskeys.
Yeah, the end of
which is a miracle that we remember any of that.
Yeah.
I remember right before
this.
Easily
a bottle of whiskey apiece that night.
Oh, God.
Go on.
I don't remember if it was right before this or right after this. We tried a French whiskey that none of us liked.
Right.
We tried this. We tried 3 or 4 of their whiskeys. Mm-hmm. One of them is one of my favorites. It's got a green label. It's their rye.
Okay.
I had one not too long ago. I think I drank the whole thing. But I have a really hard time finding this around me. any of them. And every once in a while, I'll look online to see if anything's changed. Just distribution stuff changes over time. A few months ago, I found a website that through the Balcones website, there was like a link to, if you find it with our store finder, go here and you may be able to order it within your state from other stores. Right. I found like half of their whiskeys I can order online, but they were all from different stores, wildly different prices. Plus a couple of the ones I have are really expensive. I found one store that was carrying 2 whiskeys and was like, okay, worth it to pay the shipping because I can get 2 bottles in the same shipping.
Sure.
So I got 2 of them. They were 2 I hadn't tried before. Then, like a couple of weeks later, I was in Saratoga and I found 2 or 3 more in the store there. So I bought one of each of those as well. One of them I brought to you when I was down by you.
That one was really good.
So that one was this whiskey that was then like smoked or whatever.
Oh, it's this one smoked.
It was, this was the base. I should have brought that bottle down as well.
Maybe this is really good. I'm excited to drink it.
Because I'm pretty sure it said, I don't remember if it said, something about Baby Blue specifically, but it says on there, like, smoked blue corn whiskey. So I'm pretty sure it's the same base, or at least close enough to this base.
Oh, cool. Because that was really good. How much was this bottle for you?
I don't remember.
It was $32.
Yeah, I mean, that's about right. I mean, this is their, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is their flagship. This is their base, main, like, first offering. So, like, everything else they've done. They have
one that says, the one that, never mind. I was looking at a different one. Never mind. Okay, I got you.
I'm pretty sure. Like I said, my favorite one is that rye one. I've also seen the high proof one of those as well, because I've gotten both of those in the past. Anytime someone I know goes to Texas and is going to check a bag, I ask them to smuggle some out for me. So
cool. Cool. That's fair. Well, I think we should give this one a taste.
Yes.
And
we have glass bottles. We can cheers.
We have glass bottles. Here's to being back. Cheers.
It feels good to be back.
I just want to point out, like in the theme of role reversal, my clink was fantastic, and yours sounded like mine, just plastic on plastic, which doesn't make any sense because all I use is glass and metal when we're.
I tried to use the base, and the base has like these weird like divots, and it didn't get a good click.
Fix it a divot. Name that movie.
Wafting. I don't know. I'm gonna guess Caddyshack, but
Space Jam.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've seen that.
Okay, jury's in. It was really, really good. It's
a solid, decent whiskey. I mean, it's definitely not my favorite of theirs, but it's a good whiskey.
It's got like,
how blue is the corn?
It's very blue. It's got a really nice sweetness to it.
Yes, auto with that amount of corn in it,
which I like, and it doesn't. The finish is very smooth. Not at all vicious. Viscous, I get that. I get viscous.
Yeah.
It definitely leaves like almost like a syrupiness. Probably from that oil on the maize that they were talking about.
Yeah, the oily maize.
Yeah. This is something. This is nice.
Yeah.
This is a 2-glasser.
It does have that signature aftertaste that their whiskeys all have. I don't know what very specifically it is that leads to that flavor, but I notice it in all their whiskeys. I like it. It may not be for everyone, but I really like the finish of theirs.
Oh my God. I'm going to Texas in April.
Nice.
I should buy some. I can smuggle you some Balcones.
We'll talk off air. Don't incriminate yourself.
I decline to answer. Pursuant with my Fifth Amendment rights.
I have the worst fucking attorneys.
A husband and wife can't be charged for the same crime.
Flee to the sea.
No touching. I'm a big fan of this. I just finished a bottle of like, I don't remember what it's called, like Smoking Skull or some weird. It caught the label caught my eye. I had never had it. I read that they had 2 bottles on the shelf. It was that and their cask strength one, which I'm still not. I don't fully. I feel like at one point in my life I knew like what to expect from the cask strength, and now
strong.
I don't. It's just burny though.
Yeah, well, because cask strength is going to be higher alcohol content. Because basically what they do is they age it at a very high alcohol content because of how much will actually boil off, because the boiling point of alcohol is so much lighter than water. And they do it so that they have a really good volume of it that they yield at the end. And what they do is when they go to bottle it, they actually add water to bring it down to what they plan to sell it at.
Okay. Wait, so
like a cask strength is usually going to be over 60%, whereas what they sell it to you in a bottle is usually 40 to 45%.
So the cask strength one isn't the one that doesn't have the water added, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Which makes sense because I have found that if I do have a cask strength, that drop of water goes a long way in opening up the flavor a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. I'm really happy about this. I'm happy we're back. I'm happy it's Oscars week. You know I love Oscars week. I'm all about it. Everybody knows it. It doesn't make any sense, but I love it. And I'm happy that I have whiskey. This is just
it's that you have good whiskey.
It's a good whiskey. Oh, right. That's what I was going to say. This other one that I had, it was decent. There was something about applewood with it. And if you pay attention to it while you're drinking it, like you really can, like there is like a hint of like apple juice like in there. Like that's what comes across. That being said, I'm not a huge fan of apple juice, but it was unique in the whiskey like that. I felt like you could actually pull that out of it when you were drinking it, which was kind of cool. And I ended up going through the whole bottle, so I must have liked it.
I had a cheap bottle of, well, it was cheap because it was from a local place, of Applejack once. It did have notes of apple for sure.
Applejack, like
it's some sort of apple whiskey. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sure
Applejacks don't taste like apples.
Yeah, it wasn't cereal.
That was like a whole thing, right? That was like their advertising.
I think so.
Yeah,
they actually tasted like
cereal.
Right? Yeah,
I don't know.
Do you remember cereal? Boy,
I feel like I don't know. I feel like we're at a point where like cereal is like a guilty pleasure.
No, not if you ask what idiot CEO said something the other day about how you should try eating cereal for dinner if you can't afford things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So actually a staple, a necessity, if you will. It's all you get. You'll eat it and you'll like it. Shut the fuck up.
You know what else I remember about cereal? I remember those commercials. I think they were Pathmark commercials. It was like the guy like crouch walking in the cereal aisle trying to tell you that like you should buy these bagged ones on the bottom. They're just as good as the name brand ones. They weren't.
I wish I wasn't taking a sip of whiskey when you said that.
I wish I wasn't wearing this fucking shirt. Al, how long has it been?
So, hang on, let me consult the notes. I have my Google Drive open.
Ian's coming up on 4 months old.
That's not super helpful, actually, because the dates aren't on here. They were on my phone. Let's open the Spotify app.
I will say I feel like there's one very specific thing that's happened. I mean, we talked about family and houses like briefly, which we probably won't get too deep into those things. But one very specific thing near and dear to both of our hearts, probably to our listeners' hearts, that's happened since our last recording, is that we saw Dune 2.
Yeah, I was going to mention
Dune
that
Part
after
2.
I got to this. So our last episode before the one that you just put out was October 2nd. And we recorded the Clerks episode with my cousin Mike. Hey, Mike. Within a week or two after that, it was definitely October. And so this is the first time we're on and recording in like 4 months, which is cool. And
that tracks because things got complicated at post recording.
As they do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But everything's good now.
Well, because everything's fine up here. How are you? We had concrete plans to record one more episode
right
after that one, and then we were going to go on hiatus, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah, with the hopes of coming back with Dune.
Yes,
but the timing just worked out that we're coming back with Flix and Whisk, which is also fun. We were going to do a movie though that I feel like we were both prepared to
we were going to do Nope.
What were we going to do?
Nope.
Okay, right. I saw it.
I know because, well, I still haven't actually finished that movie, but I know because I watched like half of the movie, and then I was going to watch the other half, and you were like, hey, we're going to have to go on hiatus. And I said, okay, well, I don't have
I'm gonna
rush.
hold off on the second half.
Well, no, I was like, I don't have to rush to finish this, and then it didn't happen in the next few days, and then it's like, I'll get around to it, I guess.
Yeah, I will say in our hiatus, I have fully. I mean, it's definitely a result of having small children. I have fully embraced Al's methodology of watching movies over multiple sittings.
Sometimes
and
you got
boy, oh boy, have I watched a lot of things in the past 4 months.
Don't get me wrong. If the conditions are proper, I very much prefer to watch a movie in one sitting. It's great. It's what they were made for.
Me too.
That being said, I have had to come to terms and embrace, specifically when doing this on a schedule. When I don't have a schedule, I just won't watch the movie until I'm ready to watch the movie. But
sure,
when I have a schedule, it can be helpful sometimes to watch them into 2 or 3 sessions if that's what works best, because I can force myself to try and stay awake and watch the movie, but I probably won't be retaining the information very well.
But you would not be successful. Yeah, there's what's nice about it right now is the current routine, which I really like, is I get up with Ian in the morning. He gets up around 6, between 6 and 7. And I go to feed him and just sit on the couch and put a movie on. And I've been just like cranking through movies this way. Granted, I haven't been watching new things. I've been watching a lot of just things that I've seen before, but
that's fine.
Still, I've just been really enjoying it. Maybe I've watched a couple of new things. It is why I am only 2 movies shy of seeing all of the Best Picture nominees. Well, I can confirm, by the time we actually get to Sunday, I hope to have seen them all.
I can confirm that this is your format because 2 things. 1, we watched a movie in 2 sittings the last time that we hung out.
Yes.
When I got to see you last month, the month before, whenever that was. I came over. We did a tour of the house.
Yep.
I hung out with Ian. You put cranky Elio back down to sleep.
Yep.
We had just delightful Mexican food.
Oh, so good.
Whiskey, wine, and then we started watching a movie. You were in a tough situation, probably 30 minutes into that movie.
Yeah.
And then you toughed it out for a little bit more, and then we're like, okay, we're going to put this on hold. And then we went to sleep, and then you woke up in the morning to feed Ian, and we watched the rest of that movie, and then I left.
Yeah. A good 4 hours of Kill Bill, Volume 1 and 2. What is it? Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. That's what it was.
Yes.
Right? And
we only watched Kill Bill 1.
Sure. But I finished it.
No, I know, but those that evening and then the next morning was just the first movie. It was not the second movie.
Right. So I finished it. I watched the rest of it. And we've talked about this on the show before, here and there. I feel like I was saying the whole time, I don't recall. I've never seen those movies. Is what I'm pretty sure is where I stood. Like I haven't seen. Like it's a weird gap in my. Basically,
you had seen all of the Tarantinos except for those, and I was like, I could take or leave all of the Tarantinos except for those.
And then what's funny about it though is we're watching it, and I'm explaining like, does this happen? And you're like, yeah. And I was like, is this gonna happen? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, I think I've seen this movie.
Well, it was like 60-40 because some of those I was like, that's the second one. And some of them I was like, that's this one. And then we would come to a scene, you're like, I have no memory of this at all.
Yes. So what I think happened, which I explained to Al, is I'm fairly certain that I was like super sick. And it might have been like COVID last year, or it might have been like that one time I had the flu. I think I watched this movie sick. And like really sick though, where I was dozing in and out because but when the movie ended, I was like, I know all of this story. There were parts that I was like, I don't remember that or this, but like I was able to piece it. But the whole thing, I knew, and I was like, what's going on here? And,
so that was recently-ish then, because like over the run of our show, like historically, you've been consistent that you haven't seen this movie. So
yeah. I don't know. If it was that recent, I feel like I would have remembered watching it or at least trying to watch it, which leads me to believe that it's probably been a number of years since this has happened. But like, I didn't recall it, and it was like recalling. Watching the movie was like recalling memories that were like deep that I forgot about.
Okay,
very strange. It was a very strange experience.
Maybe you rented it when you were sick, like a year or two after it came out, and that's why they're like buried deep down.
Here's the other thing.
You have it back there?
I have them. Yeah.
Are they still plastic wrapped?
No, they're not.
Do you own 3 copies?
I don't own 3. I see they're not, and they're not Blu-rays. So they're older. I don't know. Whatever. I've officially seen them. I can say it's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's not my favorite.
It's funny because for quite a while I had seen the second one many more times than the first, but now I realize it's been a long time since I've seen the second one. So I'm probably almost 50-50 again. So I probably need to go back and watch the second one because it's been a while since I've seen that one now.
I'm trying to... I enjoy the ride of watching his movies, but they're not like... I don't know. I enjoy his movies, but like they're not my favorite. They're not like tried and trues that I could just throw on. Like occasionally rewatch, sure, but like there's just they're a spectacle, and I appreciate that. The one I'm trying to remember. Can you remind me? I think what's the Django? I think Django is amazing. Mostly because of Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
And like that performance is just bananas to me. I mean, so is DiCaprio's, but like Christoph Waltz, it's so good. And to that same token, Inglourious Bastards, like it's like such a, like that whole thing is unreal.
One of these
Those
years
two stand apart to me.
One of these years I'll actually watch that.
You've never seen it at all? Or have you seen it?
I fell asleep watching like the 3rd chapter, I would say.
Oh, it's a little bit lengthy. I've never been. We've talked about this a lot on the show. Like, I always kind of roll my eyes at the whole "oh, that movie's too long" thing. Length really doesn't have anything to do with it. If the movie is good all the way through, like and captivating all the way through, I don't really care how long it is. Yeah. Length becomes an issue with when you're up your own ass. The Irish.
There's got to be a way to say all that.
The Irishman, and I think some of Quentin's movies are that way too. Like at parts where it's like you could cut out a lot of this for a better, like a more repeatable movie watching experience. Which you might not be going for that. You might be going for like the one time watch, like whatever.
I still haven't watched all of his movies, but really the only movie that I felt that with was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, yeah, I like Django was propulsive enough. Like I don't love the movie, but like the pacing wasn't the issue.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought. I mean, I don't know if it's because I watched both of them in combined as one movie, but I felt that way about Kill Bill.
Yeah, no, each Kill Bill on its own. First of all, they're not that long. Second of all, they go chapter by chapter, and so
that may be better with the breathing room, though.
Yeah. I never saw Hateful Eight, and that one's long too, right?
I haven't watched that one. I tried watching it a couple times and never got through it.
I think Bastards is a decent length, but I don't know if it's like crazy long or not.
That one is lengthy and it's gripping, but it's gripping. It's like this is what I'm talking about. Like on the initial watch, the first time you see it, I feel like is when you can sit through it the whole time. I think going from there, it would feel a little bit slow. Like it's more of, I think you kind of go through and watch like specific scenes and really enjoy them, because that's what that movie has for me. It's like there's like these, like each individual scene is like its own little vignette that like you could just watch on its own, that it's like really entertaining, and then move on. The first time you see it, it's all stitched together and it's one cohesive story and it's great. But after that, it loses some of its, like, I guess it's not really shock value, because it's not all shocking. Some of it is, but it's like, I don't know, that mystique is gone. It's weird. It's hard to explain, and I think that's okay. I think you can make movies like that, and they're watch one time movies, and they can still be fantastic. But they won't be on my top 10 list.
You can't recreate the experience of watching the first Hangover the first time. It's one of the greatest first experiences, but each time you watch it afterwards, it dies by degrees. Whereas there's others that are eminently repeatable. I mean, I've watched so many movies so many times and I still love them. So,
Dark Knight.
Sure. There's amongst many others that we've discussed on the show or not. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's really been his last two movies, and specifically, like, I thought that, like The Irishman, that Once Upon a Time, it suffered from not being well edited, from being too much his vision, which is funny because, like, the whole thing all along has been, it's his vision. Maybe his vision's gotten cloudy. I don't know.
Sure.
But
yeah, but I think that goes that kind of like pulls on another point, which is movies are not one person's doing.
Sure.
And if you allow one person to have too much control over the entirety of it, it loses what it would benefit from collaboratively.
Yeah.
And that is like a checks and balance type thing. Like when you're too close to something, you don't have the best solution. I deal with this at work all the time, like coding up a solution to something. It's like, I've got it. It's working. Now somebody else look at this and just let's figure out a better way. You know what I mean? Like it's just not right. It's like, it could be better. And you have to remove ego to allow that to happen. And I think some of the directors that have put forth movies like that suffer from this are egomaniacs. So it makes sense.
I also, I don't think it's always one size fits all either, though. I mean, like, on certain types of projects, there have to be times where you have your minute there to say, okay, we've run up against the wall. All options are good options. Let's figure out the best one. But there also has to be other times where it's like, you can have the paralysis by analysis. We need to just pick one and go with it, even if it's not the perfect solution, right? Like, and it's not always easy to call those in the moment,
sure.
Right? Like sometimes if you give it just that one extra second, someone's going to figure it out. And sometimes, you've wasted X amount of time, and even just going with whatever solution is not going to be good enough. So like, there is no perfect solution, but yeah, you have to at least be open to the idea of someone else might have a better way to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, there's also that old phrase that they never built a statue of a committee. So
they should. Isn't that what the Oscar is?
It's a statue conveyed by a committee. All right, let's get back on track with our catch up. So we have an embarrassment of riches of time together because we got to see each other last week. We're going to get to see each other this week. And then I'll get to see you again a few weeks later because we're going to have Easter together, as we do just about every year.
Presumably, I think we're on track for that.
I believe so. So that'll be cool.
Wait, I saw you last week?
It was definitely last Friday.
Oh my God, time.
5 days ago?
I saw you last Friday. This is the world that I'm living in right now.
It's March 6th. We watched Dune on March 1st.
Oh my God. You know what it was? I was trying to picture us in one of our houses, and I couldn't.
Yeah, we weren't. We
weren't there.
Almost in the middle.
Wow.
Which was a great a great undertaking to get.
I almost had dinner by myself that night. 6
people together to have dinner in a movie, coming from 3 different directions, and no one arrived at the same time. And 4 of them were in the same car together.
All right, go on. Yeah.
We made it. We had a delightful.
We're making up for lost times.
We had a delightful, if rushed, dinner.
Dude, hang on. Let's pause on that dinner for a second because that Korean barbecue cheesesteak, like, I'm going back.
Wow. Okay. We'll have to find another movie for you to come up and watch with us.
Yeah, that's fine. And literally,
Civil War?
Any movie. What?
Civil War?
Sure.
It's gonna be next month.
Oh, okay.
Remember we saw the trailer and it said spring of 2024. I think they dated it. It's April something now.
Okay, I will say my only issue though is that movie theater's pricing is egregious.
Well, it's an AMC in a gigantic mall, so
yeah, it's.
Well, we also went to see an IMAX movie. That's always more expensive.
I guess that's fine. I don't know, something about the $25 price tag. I'm fine. I mean, I'll pay whatever amount of money.
But it's also probably surge pricing. It's one of the true events. They're going to milk it, right? And it's IMAX, which an IMAX ticket has always been more expensive than a regular ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too much. Like, I'm not disputing that, but like,
yeah.
it's
You know what though? Okay, here's what I'm going to say though. And I brought this. I asked this, and nobody knew quite. Nobody knew the answer, and I found the answer out once we got into the theater. My question was: is it a true IMAX?
Oh, I meant to ask you and follow up.
It is not a true IMAX screen.
Oh,
it's a big screen.
Okay,
and it's the appropriate proportions.
Okay,
but it is not. It is not that holy crap IMAX screen size.
Okay.
That being said, for that price tag, I believe it should be. Also, I believe I should be able to move my knees.
My knees were fine when I was seated.
There was a very, very robust person in the seat in front of me, and they were the decline from their weight on the chair made it so that my knees were against the seat.
Because
it wasn't ideal. That's why I kept getting up when everybody in the movie theater decided that they need to go through our row.
Oh, I thought you were just doing it because you didn't want to get trampled and you were on the edge.
I literally they couldn't fit between me and the seat.
Because I would have done that as well, but I was already the second person in the row. And I was like, I'm not doing this every time. Because as I said to you, 5 minutes into the movie, I think every single person in the theater is sitting in our row because nothing short of 50 people went down our row, which is, I just don't understand how it's possible. There could have been 50 people going down the row because I don't think there's 50 seats in that row.
Yeah. It was, I easily got up 10 times.
Yeah.
That was insane. I mean, granted, one of those times was because I had to go get another straw because mine had a giant hole in it. A little frustrated by that.
But yeah, we
just leave the straws out. If the straws are faulty, let me handle. I had to also do that really awkward cut in front of the line and be like, it's okay. I've got a badge.
A badge.
But anyway, we got there.
Dominic got God only knows what reason 4 different Dune sandworm buckets.
Well, was there one for everybody?
Dominic has them all.
Oh,
that was the point. He asked all of them to get them so he could have them all.
I'm gonna need more information.
Do you?
Maybe not 7 times a day. I don't know. I don't want that worm bucket. It was weird.
I got a large gourmet caramel corn.
That was pretty good though.
Way too much. So fucking good.
In hindsight though, I don't know why I would have easily shared popcorn with you. I don't know why we both bought our own popcorns.
I don't know. I went first. You went second.
Yeah.
I got my thing.
You went first. I was dazed. I was like, wow, I'm at the movies again. I was just lost. I was lost in time and space.
Yeah, we probably didn't need 5 or 6 popcorns for 6 people.
Nah. But popcorn, good option.
Oh, it was spectacular. It was so good. It was just so heavy. It was carameled.
I really want though,
thick.
I don't want just caramel or just regular. I want the trifecta can that you used to get for a holiday.
They had a deal that was the duo, but I didn't want the cheddar.
Yeah, but who doesn't want the cheddar?
Actually, I got the best option. Well, because I'm always skeptical of the cheddar. If I had known what I know now at the time, because if this was actually gourmet popcorn, because they popped full popcorns in their popcorn machine and then carameled it because 1, it was hot. 2, underneath the caramel, it was salty popcorn. It was so good. But I don't know why in my mind I thought the gourmet popcorn, you know how sometimes when you get something that's quote unquote gourmet or premium, the proportion is different?
Sure.
I didn't think it was going to be a full-size large.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. I was like, it's probably a smaller...
Yeah, it was just a full-blown large, which I was not prepared for. I was like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. I went to grab the edge of it so I could hold it and my bottle of water in the same hand. That bucket would have just disintegrated underneath the weight of that. It was like, oh God. I was like, I need to hold this like it's the nuclear football because it is heavy. So dense.
Also, they were putting a paper popcorn box inside of the novelty popcorn bin that had the lid on it. What was that about?
I don't know why they didn't
just the collector's item.
Probably, or because they didn't want to prove that they kept them clean or whatever, so they could stack them and move them.
Oh,
that would be my guess because it would have been way less wasteful to just pour the popcorn directly into that.
Now that we've talked about this, I was like, what I've there's been times in the past where I've gotten like the specialty popcorn box for whatever. I've got like the Force Awakens one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I was like, oh, I want to get that. But like, I have what am I going to do with that? Now I'm thinking like, oh, you know what I could do is I could put a shelf at the top of this room to just display
absolutely
the fancy popcorn things.
Yep.
And now I think I might make that a reality.
That sounds like a good project.
Yeah, I like that.
But that popcorn was so fucking good. But I only ate probably 60% of it. I did bring it home and bag it, and I had it at a later date. It was great.
Nice.
I had it Sunday when I was watching whatever I was watching. I don't remember what I was watching. And then we watched the movie, which was pretty awesome. And I guess we'll probably do that next week for the show.
Yeah, I think we should. I would like to see it again.
I would too. I don't know that
my dad wants to see it, so I'll probably try to take him.
I don't know that I'll be able to see it between now and then, especially since this week.
I probably won't either, but I will see it again.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. But yeah, really, really good. We have a lot of worms in our driveway. There's a lot of rain, especially when it rains, like they all come up. And I have Elio calling them Shai Hulud, and it's the greatest. Like I asked him, I was like, "What are the worms called?" And he goes, "Shai Hulud." And I'm like, "Yes."
Perfect.
So I was like, when Al comes here Sunday, you have to tell him that. Oh man, but it was a treat. I will say, like, I will get into that movie next week. But that I was talking about it with you like of the week leading up to it. The music in that movie is something to behold. Oof, is it good?
Oh yeah, yeah. The music in the first was great, and they did a good job of adding a couple of specific new things, but you also bringing back a lot of those good themes from the last one.
Yeah,
very strong.
Great amount of comic relief in there too.
It was necessary for how dark the subject matter of that movie is.
Yeah, no, I liked it. No more on this because we'll have a whole episode on it. But yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time catching up on the movies.
What else? What else been going on the last few months?
I mean, aside from all of life, we had holidays in between. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of things.
Same.
Seen a lot of movies. Seen a lot of TV. At this point, I'm drawing a complete blank on everything that I've watched.
That's
probably
right.
Because I've been so focused on Oscar season.
Yeah.
But I will say there is one thing in particular that I rewatched that I was like, huh, this is really good.
Okay.
That's the third Iron Man movie.
I
remember watching it and it being forgettable.
I'm pretty sure I never have watched it start to finish. I've seen the whole movie, but not start to finish.
And I've rewatched it over the course of the last 3 days, thanks to mornings, and it's great. It's really, really good. Like, it's funny. The villain's cheesy and it doesn't really matter because that's not really what the story is. But like it follows Tony like post New York and the trauma that's inflicted on him.
Yeah, it's literally Iron Man PTSD.
It's so good. It's like really well done, especially like the fact that it's not just like PTSD, but it's PTSD through the lens of this character who we know and love so much that like for him to be able to kind of like, I mean, it's a feat in acting. Like the way that he manages to maintain like that character, but like evolve him in, like throughout like his emotional journey of these movies. It's really good. And I was just blown away, and I was almost like, wow, I feel like I missed out up until now because I kind of was like dismissive of that one. But it's really good. Also, Ben Kingsley cracks me up in that movie. He's so funny.
Yeah,
he's too funny. It's great. It's great. I'm him and he's me.
Also, Iron Man 3, Christmas movie.
Yep, Christmas movie. Barely, but yeah, he does make a bomb out of a ornament at one point.
Really fun. I remember the vice president plotting treason sitting next to a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I remember him.
There's a Christmas tree on the ship in the last scene.
He's dragging his thing through the snow, and was there Christmas music in it? I don't remember. I don't remember the movie.
I think there's here and there.
Okay, Christmas
here
movie.
And there. But yeah, what's going on with you?
So I watched a bunch of a random smattering, if you will, of movies over the last several months, specifically the last couple of months since football season wound to a close. I watched Burn After Reading. I had never watched that movie before.
That's one of the ones where I'm not 100% sure if I watched it or not.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I wonder if I watched that while I was sick too.
Coen Brothers movie. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Frances McDormand.
Is it Brad Pitt?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen that. What? I think I would have to start watching it for the entire movie to click back into my head, similar to Kill Bill. But,
John Malkovich, Tilda Swinton.
Yep. I've seen this.
Good movie.
It was good.
Yeah.
What else?
The only other thing I went to the theater for was to see Poor Things, so that was good.
Okay.
I watched Rebel Moon.
Oh,
I was home.
Did?
Yeah, I texted you about that. I was.
Yeah. That's
I was home with the flu, and
in 10 years from now, you won't remember if you've seen it or not.
No, because I wasn't that sick that day. I was much more sick the day before.
Okay.
And that was a movie, I guess.
Yeah.
The thing about it is there was all of the whatever around that movie, and like all the whatever around Zack Snyder the last several years. And we've talked a bunch of times about our very varying feelings on the Snyderverse movies, but I was willing to go clean slate on this one. Just give it a chance. It's on Netflix, whatever. I wanted it to be much better or much worse because it was the worst type of bad that there is. It was just kind of boring.
It was there, and it was on, and it was noise.
Yeah, and it's like, again, like the movie, that
sucks.
They could have really expanded it out into a season of television, and it probably would have been awesome.
Sure.
Or they could have tried to cut the cast in like half and spend more time with each character and give you like a reason to care about all of them. And it could have been more interesting. And it tried to split the difference between all of that. And so it's just a lot of people who you only have 5 minutes to try and decide whether you care about them or not. And creating an ensemble. The action was fine. It actually was not as good as I would like out of a Zack Snyder movie, which is a little disappointing. Not to say there weren't certain sequences or moments that were cool, because there were.
Sure.
Really, I thought the performances were fine. I like Sophia Boutella. I like a bunch of other people in the cast. But it just was there. It's just...
Yeah.
I feel like really shocked
Netflix
confused.
Things are mostly just there.
Well, the other thing that's really confusing is if you watched any of like the way that they were talking about it in the months leading up to it, like they gave him the ability to make his own cut of the movie, which usually that's not how a director's cut works. Usually a director's cut exists because the director and the studio are fighting, and then they use some of their own money to make their version of the movie after the original version of the movie comes out. Whereas from the beginning, they were like, we want this, but also you can go do whatever you want also. So there's almost, the way that Snyder talks about it, basically two totally different movies that was all shot making the same movie. But it was planned from the start.
That's weird.
Yeah, why would you do that? Just make one movie.
I don't know.
Just make one movie, make it good.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
I went in, like, I really did not try to, like, go in, like, oh, okay, I'm going to hate this. It's like, no, if I'm going to do that, like, I wouldn't have bothered. We were in the middle of hiatus. We weren't doing it for the show. Like, it's just like, yeah, let me give this a shot. Let me give it my own personal cinephobe treatment. Is it actually as bad as everyone's saying, or does it deserve a fair shake? No, it's just, and like I said, one of the ones that we bring up all the time, it's an easy shorthand for me. The 1984 Dune, bad movie. Bad movie. Yeah. I really enjoy that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's so bad that I get unintentional enjoyment from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This one needed to be much worse for me to enjoy the movie. It's not bad enough.
That's... Yeah,
or not weird enough, whatever.
That's kind of... There's just something... I don't know. There's a lot of... I feel like over the years, I've watched a lot of like Netflix movies. Like movies that are solely released on Netflix. That are just... It's just like plain oatmeal. Like, I don't...
Well, we've talked about the algorithm of it, right? Like with Bird Box or like... Yeah. But this wasn't even that, because like... it's very clear this was him trying to do a Star War and not being able to do a Star War. And it still doesn't even work as a knockoff Star War.
It's just disappointing because you know what I think what bothers me is like it ties up budgets and people and what could be something good in something that is just not working anymore. And it's like,
yeah, and I would say, oh, this is gonna make studios shy away, but Netflix will never shy away.
No,
there's been jokes about that for years.
Ugh, yeah. That's annoying though. And then you like start watching. You're like, I guess I'll finish this, and then you get to the end. And you're like,
well, I was sick, and I had like 18 hours of needing to find something to do with myself while I was sitting in my room. So
yeah, I watched. I had a disappointing watch over this hiatus. One it was Jake Johnson's Self-Reliance, where look, we've talked about this before. I feel like I am okay with an open-ended movie.
Oh, you did text me about this. That's right.
Asterisk. I am okay with an open-ended movie provided that under the hood there was a direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I believe we've talked about this at length numerous times and on the show. I believe that Inception and from interviews from talk, there's an ending that the writers have in mind. And I think I know what it is. And I appreciate the fact that there is an answer to the questions, even if they're not given to me. It's there, so it's. I feel like it's worth my time to deconstruct it and find the answer for myself. This movie can be one of two things at the end, and it's very clear from interviews, articles that it was made so that either one can be possible, and that the director didn't make a choice.
Directing cowardice. And
that is not okay. That bothers me. That's an opinion. But yeah, it makes me, it cheapens the entire experience. It makes, it's like, I'm not watching a choose your own adventure. That's not what I'm doing with a movie. I'm here to explore and understand and figure out the story, especially when it's cagey. Like I like figuring it out, but if there is nothing to figure out, that's not a conversation for me.
It'd be like if you opened a J.J. Abrams puzzle box and inside of it, it's like the puzzle can be whatever you want it to be, bud.
Yeah, it's like what do you like? No, like it's just no. That rubbed me the wrong way.
So on the same sick day that I watched Rebel Moon, I also watched, what the fuck was that movie called? Oh, I just had it 2 seconds ago, and then I already forgot what it was. The one with John David Washington.
Tenet?
The Creator. That's it.
Oh, The Creator.
No, we did Tenet for the show.
Yeah.
No, I watched The Creator. That's worth a watch.
Okay.
That's a movie that's worth a watch. Like, I'm not saying it was the greatest movie in the world.
Sure.
I liked it. Good movie.
I would check that out.
Definitely worth a watch. It was cool concept. I'm not saying that it was totally revolutionary. You've seen movies about similar-ish stuff, or at least that explore similar themes.
Sure.
But it did it in a cool way. Like, cool sci-fi. Pretty good effects, which is a thing that we have to say now, because apparently, like a lot of the big studios, specifically Marvel, we're looking at you, but not only you, are spending all of this money on I don't know what, and the movies don't always look great.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
it's a very binary thing. Like, is it shiny? Yes or no?
Thankfully, Dune largely looked pretty spectacular.
Not shiny. I mean, Fade Wratha, shiny, but not
the Emperor's ship, shiny. Intentionally shiny.
Intentionally so.
Supposed to be shiny. It's metal.
Accidentally shiny.
The Creator, actually, it's funny. I remember thinking it while watching it, and then actually the other day I saw something someone was commenting on, like what the budget for Dune was. It was like $200 million, which they've already surpassed. And that's not including marketing budget, which they'll surpass by like this weekend or whatever.
Sure.
But talking about that one and how like there are a lot of Marvel movies that are made for about the same amount of money, and what How? And it's not like you can say, oh, they didn't use like big time actors. It's literally a veritable who's who in Dune 2. So
yeah. Did you watch the Marvels?
I have not gotten to that one yet.
I haven't either. I did watch over this hiatus. I watched Miss Marvel, and I enjoyed it. It was, it's nothing. It's nothing. Again, nothing groundbreaking. Nothing.
I figured I would watch that before watching the Marvels, and I still haven't got around to that either.
Yeah,
so.
it's entertaining. It's far better than like Hawkeye.
Yeah,
which was just weird.
But back to the creator for a second. I think Dune 2 was like $190 million budget or something like that, or $200 million budget. The creator was like $80 million, and it looks fantastic. Again, it looks better than like a lot of other really good movies. But they were smart because they picked their spots.
Sure.
They picked their spots, and then you make the best of it where you can. Like you could tell this they're shooting on the location, this they're shooting on a set, etc., so on, and it's fine. It looks like a movie that's made today that like has effects. Like it's
right.
And I think this is something we've talked about a bunch. Like specifically lauding what the new Star Wars have done. Whatever you think of the movies, in general, they did a really good job of striking the balance between what's real and what's an effect, so that you can maximize those effects looking good. You need to have a certain backbone of practical effects and practical shooting.
Yeah, I agree. It makes it for sure.
But actually, I would check that out.
On that topic, Dial of Destiny, shiny.
Yeah. Some of it was good. Some of it didn't work. Like effects wise,
there was a lot of shiny though. Like because they overdid some of the CG when Indiana Jones, I feel like, needs to be practical because that is part of its essence, and it wasn't, and that really detracted from the experience. That being said, I enjoyed the movie significantly, but that stood out to me.
I thought it was fine. Much better than Crystal Skull, but that's not really saying anything.
I have to rewatch Crystal Skull because I don't have any memory of it. Like I know I watched it and I remember like somebody swinging from vines,
more or less.
I remember an alien head and I remember a refrigerator, but that's pretty much it.
That's the movie. You got it.
It was a gas shortage and a flock of seagulls. That's about it.
That Crystal Skull is in the same file as Ghost Protocol. We've seen the movie like a bunch of times. I'm still not entirely sure what it's about.
I gotta rewatch it. I will say I got a pretty killer sound system in the new house. I got like the Sonos premium home theater setup, so it's like
you had it when I was there.
Yeah, at the Era 300s in the back and the Gen 3 sub, and it sounds great. It's perfectly calibrated. It's amazing.
Can you hear movies though?
Yes, you can hear dialogue. You can hear dialogue in Oppenheimer. Because
my dad was really mad. We watched the first Dune the weekend before the second one just came out, and I had to put the captions on.
Yeah. That is a choice at some point.
It's a choice, but I also think I'm probably gonna have to start like getting unlazy and see if I have to play with settings when I put a movie on or something, because
we have a voice boost that you could turn on.
We have a sound bar. It's a good sound bar. Sound sounds good, but the levels specifically while watching a movie are awful. You cannot hear dialogue.
Ugh.
You can't hear dialogue in an action movie or a movie with a robust score.
Yeah. Well, in this system you can, and it's good. And I very much enjoy it. But with Dial of Destiny, there's a scene in the caves with echoing, and it really showcases the Atmos effect. Okay. And I was like, holy moly. Like that is everywhere in this room. Like I can't even, it's just like, you feel it, like hair on the back of your neck standing up. Like it's strange. I'm like, that sound is coming from behind me, but I could touch the wall behind me. I don't understand. How do you work? But it's good. It's very enjoyable. And I rewatched Dune Part 1 with that system and enjoyed.
Nice.
Thoroughly.
Good.
What other I had mentioned I watched Miss Marvel. I also watched the second season of Loki since we've last did a show, and I really, really liked it. it's
Still,
I think it takes a little bit to get off the ground, like the first couple of episodes, but then ultimately, like where it goes is just kind of like, I don't know, kind of blows me away. The performances are incredible. It's always weird to be like, man, that's a hell of a performance, and then like find out that person's a piece of shit. I don't like that aspect of it. I'm also very curious what they're going to be doing with the MCU since they're driving it directly into the ground. It seems like
I haven't
taking an opportunity to reset it, but
yeah, I haven't watched Loki, but I had heard that the conclusion of the show may have helped to solve some of their problems.
Oh, it definitely does. That being said, I think they're going to rely on Deadpool to kind of fix their issues.
Well, they've already shown that they're going to use the
TVA.
time. Yeah, I couldn't remember what they're called. Time people.
Time variance.
Yeah, that's
association.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I'm excited. I mean, that looks like it's going to be so much fun. And I rewatched both Deadpool movies. Man, that's another one where it's like, I remember in my mind, the first one is fantastic and the second one is really good, but they're both fantastic in their own way. And Ryan Reynolds can make me laugh like no other person can. I don't know what he gets he gets a level of laughter out of me that's like, it rivals Jim Carrey, but it's like a different type of humor. And I love it. He's just so funny to me. And I watch Just Friends every year for Christmas. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a top 10 movie. It's not a top 10 holiday movie. It's a top 10 movie.
I didn't get around to it this year at Christmas.
Kim and I quote that movie like daily. It's so good. Oh man, cracks me up. I mean, some of the jokes don't age well, but I don't know. You can take it with a grain of salt. It's still funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, watched a ton of stuff. What else
so I watched so much football, and with football season over, that's why I watched a handful. If there was another good pop, I watched a handful of movies. I highlighted some of the big ones, but I finally got back into television because I've been several months behind. So I have 2 shows currently going that I'm watching. The Bad Batch is back for its final season. There was a new episode today, which I have not gotten to yet, but I watched whatever it is, the first 4 episodes before that, 5 episodes, whatever it's been. Because they released 3 on the first day, and then it's 1 per week after that.
Okay.
Strong start. I'm enjoying it, so that's good. And then, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, sorry, you kind of looked like you were gonna have a comment there. I also have been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is also
how is that?
Its final season. That's good. I think I'm 1 episode behind on that one as well. That's been going on Sundays. Unfortunately, rest in peace, Richard Lewis died the other day. He missed. Did we not talk about that? I forget.
I don't think we did. That's the guy from okay.
He was the Prince John in Men in Tights.
Oh.
He's been on the show since the beginning. Him and Larry David have been best friends most of their lives. He plays a version of himself. Larry obviously plays a version of himself.
Right.
It was sad. He had not been in good health for the last several years. He was not in the last season of Curb because of his health issues. But I remember seeing several months ago that he was really excited that he was able to come back to shoot this season. And, it's not like he was always in every episode. I would say on average, in a given season, he was in probably half of the episodes, or maybe a little less. But, a good amount of screen time, Yeah. And he was in the 3rd episode of this season, and you could tell he did not look good. And I didn't notice until the end of the episode. That episode came out a few days before he died, but I watched it a few days after he died. And I didn't really think about it until he was, I think, in 3 scenes in that episode. And I realized it was he was sitting in every scene. And that was definitely a choice because 2 scenes he was sitting in a golf cart, and the 3rd scene he was sitting at the club at the restaurant. And I don't think that's the only episode he's in. I just don't know how much.
Oh, that's so sad.
I don't know how much more he's going to be in, but he was a funny guy. I had a weird, to me, I've only seen him in Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's the only thing I've seen him in other than Curb. And I only started watching Curb like 5 or 6 years ago, whatever it is, and that show's been going since I think 2000. I've had a weird relationship with him in his older years and his later in life, not taking into account that apparently he was like a really famous comedian in like the 70s and 80s. But he, between seeing him a good amount on Curb, and he's been a frequent guest over the years on the Levitard show. I don't think any of them ever met him in real life, but he called over the years a few times a year. They would talk to him, and he had a funny running bit. They did a montage of his best moments on the show the other day, and we're mourning his loss. They hadn't talked to him in a few years, but again, with his health stuff. But it was funny because they were talking about how much they all enjoyed him, even though they it's not like any of them talked to him outside of when he would come on the show, other than just to book him to come on the show. But that they were like, they appreciated that he got the bit, that like he always acted like he was a huge fan of their show. I love your show, whatever, but he didn't watch or listen to the show. but he picked up, like, he remembered, like, it's not like he was doing it like just because like his agent made him do it or anything like that. He remembered every time he talked to them. He remembered this whole thing. He had this running bit where like one of them would say something, he would like feign this like that he was wounded about it. He's like, "You used to be a stand-up guy. Why are you doing this to me?" Like, and it turned into this whole thing. And so it was nice to hear some of those things, because I've only been listening to them. That show's been going for like 18 years, but the first like 6 or 7 years they were only on like local Miami terrestrial radio. So I had no concept of them. I had the vaguest concept of them for maybe 2 or 3 years before I started listening to them for real. Been listening to them for real since like 2016 or something like that, I want to say. And I adore the show. I listen to it for a couple hours a day during the week because it's on for a few hours a day. Their output is incredible. But it was funny listening to the montage, which of the stuff I remembered and which of the stuff was clearly predated me listening to it, and just kind of watching the evolution of that. I don't know. It was a cool moment. It was a sad moment, but I just enjoyed it.
I like that stuff. It's kind of fun. Like especially like when it's really it's kind of like a testament to like the work. Like when you're able to enter at like any point in the catalog and pick up and feel like this is like a show for you, or a thing that you can be a part of, to them, like when they recap some of those things that you missed, it somehow has the same feeling of nostalgia. Yeah. Which is like, that's just, I feel like that has a lot to do with like the chemistry of the people on a show. Yeah. Right. Like where it wasn't just chemistry within the characters or cast on the screen. They brought you into the chemistry. Like, and like, then you can kind of relate to some of like the other things, even if you weren't there. That's cool.
It's funny, like with that show in particular, just a very brief like bit to finish on that. How I was first introduced to them, I would hear them a couple of times a year during the summer, where it was when I used to work in Albany. There's a couple summers where I worked in Albany, and I worked in the same place my dad did, so we would commute together 80% of the time for the 3 months that I was working up there. And a couple of times when I would drive on my own, it was also around the same time that my old car, I was having car trouble during. It was in the last years of those, so occasionally I would have my mom's car. She had satellite radio, but at that time I used to listen to a lot of like ESPN New York in the car. Okay, this is before I listened to podcasts. I might not even have a smartphone like the first year I did. I don't even remember. So I listened to whatever was on like sports radio for New York, and but that was down here. So it was New York City based, like ESPN radio station stuff. When you go up there, they would sometimes have the biggest show would be like simulcast, but then they would have like Albany or upstate, like New York ESPN radio, which is not the same shows. Yep. And it wasn't even like it was, and I would not really have a lot of time for that. So when I had my mom's car, I would listen on satellite, and so they'd have the national ESPN shows. And at that time, the Levitard show was on in the afternoons. And I remember specifically hearing them randomly on like a Thursday night or like a Friday night. I'd be like, what the fuck is this show? Because I'd hear it once and then I wouldn't hear it again for like a month. And I would listen for like 20 or 30 minutes. And I'm like, it's almost the end of their show for the day. So like, I don't even know what they're talking about all day. And then, so I just didn't really have much regard for the show. And then they did a big shuffle a few years later. And at that time, a lot of times out in the morning and early afternoon, I'd be listening to the radio shows that were simulcast on the TV, because I would be like in the kitchen or whatever, like if I'd be doing homework at the time or doing other stuff, we just have it on in the background all day. And there was a couple shows I liked, a couple shows that were just background noise, whatever. And they shuffled all of them. And they moved that show onto like one of the main national morning blocks. And I was like, that show? Okay, whatever. I don't know if I'm going to keep listening to that show. It just might become a background show. And the first couple of weeks, I was like, oh, that was kind of funny. Oh, what are they doing? I don't know. I don't know what this show. It's a weird show. And then I just came to absolutely fall in love with it. It's like my favorite show that I've ever listened to. It is so weird. It's so inside.
Sure. It
can be way too sports, and then it can be not sports at all. Like, there's no good way to describe it. It's just, it's one of those things. Like there are those shows that have those sorts of really, really like cult followings, like across different mediums. Like there's like Howard Stern and his whole thing. I've never been a Howard Stern guy. Like I don't get it. I've heard him a bunch over the years. There's been some funny stuff. There's been some stuff where I was like, dude, what the fuck? It's just not for me. Maybe it would have been for me if I listened every day for weeks at a time. I don't know. But this show, even though that show is not similar to this show really in any way, has a similar type of passionate fan base where like, if you're in, you know, right. and watching the evolution of that. And like you said, there's stuff that every once in a while they'll play a clip from like 6 years before I started listening to them. And it's like, some of the stuff, it feels exactly like what they do right now. And there's other stuff where I'm like, fuck, that's what they used to do back then. Yeah. And it's just a weird thing. But all of that to say, rest in peace, Richard Lewis. And I've been enjoying this. They're saying it's the final season of Curb. I suspect it probably will be. And maybe it's time. They've been doing it for almost 25 years. They've done they're the show for us because they've done 11 seasons in 25 years or whatever. Yeah, that's it. Goals. The only other show that I'm watching it came out a month or two ago, but I'm kind of chugging through it a little bit, is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I've really been enjoying.
Oh, okay, I'll check that out.
That's on Amazon. It had a weird kind of tortured production because it was supposed to be Donald Glover and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and they were going to co-write it, co-produce it, co-star in it, and then she left. Oh, the whole kit and caboodle, and he brought on someone who wrote on Atlanta with him, and brought on a different actress to star alongside him. Okay. And actually, I saw something around the time the show came out. He was doing press for the show. And I have no idea exactly what happened. It seems a little... I feel kind of bad because the way he was talking about it, it sounds like he regrets that it didn't work out between the two of them. It sounded like that they were really excited to do the project together, and just for whatever reason, it was an oil and water writing together situation. Like, I guess they like acting together, but the writing didn't work for whatever.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, I appreciated that he like was open about the fact like it didn't go the way that he wanted to, but like, and that he felt bad that it didn't go the way that he wanted it to, you know. Mm-hmm. But I don't know exactly what happened. Well, the only concrete thing I remember seeing was basically he talked about like she's from British television where there's no writing room, it's just a writer, and that person writes their show. Versus him having worked in America, and a writing room is however many people writing together, and I think it was just a different styles thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd be curious what that is actually like. In practice, what that's actually like, because it sounds chaotic, but I don't know. To our point that we were talking before about like movies are not made by one person. Like a good writer's room makes an incredible show. Like we've seen it before, and it's just like it's.
But then there's also other shows that are incredible that it's one person who writes it.
Yeah.
And it's not even, I think, in this case about which one's better or worse. It's just if one person is used to one thing and the other person's used to the other thing, and they're.
I'm curious about the process, just in general. I would love to be like a fly on the wall to like understand like what it's like. Like, are you like collaborating on story beats and then each taking a piece and then weaving it, or are you like each writing it whole and then kind of making decisions based off of like the options that you have as the whole? I don't know. It's just, I'd be curious like how it actually plays out.
What I've liked about the show is, so I liked the movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Okay.
It's a big dumb action movie or whatever, but I
saw it. I don't remember it, but I saw it.
It's a fun movie. It's fine. When they announced
that was during the age of me seeing like 2 to 4 movies a week. So
yeah. But when they announced this show, I was like, really? You're gonna do a show based on that movie? I think that movie kind of said everything that needed to be said. But I had heard good things about it. I liked Donald Glover. I was curious, and also I was flying to and from Alabama for Dominic's commissioning, and I was like, I need something to watch on the plane.
Content.
So Amazon is. So it turns out that all the streamers have not figured out how to do downloaded episodes, but Amazon's good about it. So I was like, okay, I'll download a couple episodes of Mr. Smith. I'll watch one or two. It's not a super long flight, whatever. I actually didn't watch hardly anything on the way down because I got a good amount of sleep. That was a hellish day. I was up at like 2:30 in the morning for that flight. But coming back was a sane human day. So I watched the first episode. Like a lot of these shows now was rather extended. So I watched like all of the first episode on the plane back, and it's a very different premise. So the premise of the movie was these two assassins meet, marry. Neither of them knows the other one's an assassin.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very different premise. It's two people who are contacted by a shady organization. Shady, which is to say they don't know what the organization is and who they represent or anything like that. And they know that they are going to be doing a deep cover, dangerous job for an extended period of time, that they're going to be paired with a partner. And the first episode actually shows them going through the way that you do when you're making an online dating profile, where they're talking about like all the different stuff about themselves, what they like in relationships and don't like, and this and that. And the two of them get paired together in a la actually The Americans, where it's like these two people are going to be posing as husband and wife in order to do these missions together. So each of them knows that the other person is an agent, that they're working for this organization, but they don't know anything about the organization they're working for. They've never met each other before this. They have to pose as husband and wife. And it does a good job of, I don't usually like Adventure of the Week shows. I know that's a hallmark of a bygone age of television, not really usually for me, but the way they do it in this show, I don't mind it so much if this sort of show will strike a balance of advancing the overarching plot at the same time as still having your episode of the week.
Sure.
They have so far through the first 4 or 5 episodes I've watched, they've done a good job of striking that balance.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of them have insane chemistry together, and it's funny. It's got some decent action. It's got a little bit of intrigue. They've had a bunch of cool guest stars already. Actually, probably way too good of guest stars for this show, which is like pretty exciting. I'm really enjoying it. The fact that I haven't already finished it has nothing to do with my enjoyment of it. It's just because of time constraints, especially in the last couple of weeks. I've been trying to knock out some of these Oscar movies so we'd be ready for the Oscars.
Cool.
I am very much looking forward to finishing this season because I'm really enjoyable.
Check that out. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it is a cool, fun show.
It's funny that you brought up the Monster of the Week concept. We are currently in the 3rd season of Suits, and
you're a few months behind everyone else in the world.
not not exactly monster of the week, but they do like a case of the week.
Yeah, so I said,
right.
adventure of the week, case of the week,
but
whatever.
What's interesting to me about that show is the first season has a story to tell across the whole season, but leans more into, I feel like, the case of the week.
Yeah.
And then the second season has a case of the week that's largely forgettable because you're like, wait, what is actually going on with this storyline? And it falters, but it seems like it's trying to move towards a more like, season long story. The third season so far is actually striking the balance of like, these cases are interesting and they're feeding into the story. Like, and like, it's starting to work.
That's the way to do that sort of thing. 'Cause
yeah,
there are plenty of shows that do like, oh, this episode is just about its thing or whatever, and maybe they'll spend 4 seconds talking about like what's going on in the show outside of that. It's just not for me. Like, I don't begrudge it being for other people. It's just not what I enjoy. I am here for the stories and the characters. And it's not to say you can't do character development that way, but a lot of times it feels like you backslide every other episode. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Not that humans don't backslide, but like, it's
either that or you come to a screeching halt sometimes, right? Like, where it doesn't do anything for the main story. It's like, wow, this episode was largely avoidable.
Yeah, and also I'm more amenable to the idea of having like episode to episode, like you don't have to really quote unquote advance the plot for like comedies. But when it comes to dramas, I want story. I want progression. Like, it doesn't mean that every single moment has to be advancing the plot. That's not. You can have some one-offs. You can have some contemplative moments. I don't mind those things, but in general, I want it to be in service of progressing something. And I don't begrudge a show if they do both parts of it really well together. Mm-hmm. You will be able to hook me in. But if it's 90% episode of the week and 10% advancement, I feel like it stagnates too much. I just don't like. I start to lose interest. I don't know what it is about it. It's just not for me. What I would, because this is around like the turn of time, we've talked about it a million times, like when I really started watching television, but where I started to develop this sense of this is the show Hannibal for me. Early on in the first season, they did a really good job of striking the balance. But as that show progressed into the second and third season, they started, not 100%, but just they shifted the focus. They left a little bit behind the episode of the week thing. Like, they were still doing that off and on throughout the course of it, but they were shifting the balance more towards advancing the plot.
That's exactly what's happening in this show.
And to me, that's the inevitable like solution of, if you have a story you want to tell, you got to tell the story, you know?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you got to tell the story.
What I'm curious, like this whole Suits thing, like, did it get repopularized because it just came to Netflix? Is that all it was? Oh, okay, cool. Because like a bunch of people told me that they had just watched all of it and they were like, "This is amazing."
I don't know if that was the first time it was available on Netflix, but last year, I think it was during last year, it got a huge bump on Netflix, and there was this entire renaissance. And there's been periods of that with a bunch of different shows. And a lot of times it's like a bunch of different shows at the same time, because it tends to be in batches, these shows going on and off streamers because of studio rights and all that arcane behind them.
So annoying.
But that specific show seemed to seize like the reins of the zeitgeist for like 3 months last year.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was watching Suits for the first time, even though that show aired like 10 years ago.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. It's funny, we talk about like characters are a big deal for me and you as well. Like, I love seeing I love character arcs. I love like just especially like really incredibly like strong or
Anthony,
consistent portrayals.
I gotta interrupt you for 1 second. I want you to continue that thought.
Yeah,
you got to get on this train. Me and Brian were talking Mass Effect the other day. I need someone to talk Mass Effect with. I mean, I'm enjoying talking to Brian about it, but like,
all right, so I have to play Mass Effect.
You got to be like this way. The three of us could talk about it. But
you know what? The timing couldn't be better. I just finished Spider-Man 2.
Oh, perfect.
So I am ready for the next game.
I'm going to be there Sunday.
Okay.
Sit down for a little bit with it.
All right.
Go back to talking about Suits and characters.
All right. So characters and character development. Love it. It's like it's. I love a story is paramount for me, and then characters are a really, really, really close second. And then in this show, there's this god awful character in the first season. His name is Louis Litt. I can't stand him. Can't stand his face. I can't stand what he does. He is irredeemable. It's not possible. Like, he sucks so much. The whole season, he's terrible. Second season, he's terrible-ish. Third season, in second and third season, you're like, and there was an episode I was like, wait, what happened? I realized just now that I care about this character. I was like, what just happened? I don't know when the switch happened, but they did it, and he's actually like one of my favorites now. And I'm like, I don't even know how that's possible.
Don in the newsroom.
I don't know what. Yeah, he doctored the tapes. It
was before that, right? It was the episode. It was the Gabby
chair.
Giffords episode. No, it was before the chair. It was the Gabby Giffords episode where Don, God damn it, you're a newsman. If I ever tell you different, you punch me in the fucking face.
Yeah. That was that show. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like he's just. I mean, and he still has his moments where he's terrible. But like you also. They do it. They make you understand why he's so awful, and they don't make it excusable, but they make it understandable, and that's redeems the character. And it's like, wow, okay, like I didn't expect for a USA show. I mean, I know it ran 9 seasons, but I didn't expect that quality or care for the character,
because most of their shows don't. They do have a couple very obvious exceptions. Now, I've never seen Suits. I know even before this renaissance, I know that it had a cult following. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'll ever get to the show, but I'm not opposed to the idea.
Sure.
I was always intrigued by Mr. Robot, but it was like, USA show. Mm-hmm. I told you a few years ago, I finally sat down and watched. I fucking adored that show. It was fantastic.
I watched the first season. I never finished it.
Get back to it one of these years. It's so worth it. It's really good. I mean, super dark, but fantastic writing, great acting. It's a good ass show, man.
Yeah, I got surprised Rami Malek watching Oppenheimer, where I was because he's in a scene, then they don't show him. Like he's like kind of like it's like half his face. And then he's in it later in the movie. But I was like,
well, also he doesn't speak like the first 3 scenes he's on
right until
screen, and then all of a sudden he speaks a lot.
It happened. I'm like, was that? No. And then it happens again. I'm like, wait. And then he's actually in the movie later, and you're like, oh, how strange.
oh shit! I got Malek.
He's interesting. Speaking of him, I also watched No Time to Die. Is that what it was called?
It was.
As I mentioned to you, had the movie spoiled for me, which is a little bit frustrating.
Wait, this isn't the first time you watched it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. We were supposed to do it on the show.
Yeah.
It was actually around Elio's birth.
Mm-hmm.
And the show never happened.
Yeah, that sounds right. But I still thought you had watched it.
No, I didn't get to see it, which was part of the reason why we didn't do it. And then
I know Dominic
postponing multiple weeks.
I know Dominic spoiled it for you, but I still thought
my dad spoiled this one.
Oh, sorry, your dad spoiled that one. Dominic spoiled something else for you.
That was yeah.
I still thought you had watched it like a few months later, because that's like
gotcha.
A couple years ago. So I thought
really good. Like I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is.
I liked it. It is one of those movies that. It's obvious the production was not good because Rami Malek is on screen for 5 minutes in the movie?
Yeah.
And almost none of the scenes that he's in the trailer were in the movie. And also they very obviously wildly changed the character arc and the plot during the course of the movie, because you can see the fingerprints of the other plot. I don't know where it was going, but it wasn't where it ended.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. I enjoyed it though. I thought it was really good. Like I thought it was well done.
Still enjoyable, but just very obviously a Frankenstein's monster of a movie.
I think what happened is it was probably more generic and followed, Bond versus the villain in like whatever its original form was, and then realized that they needed to focus a little bit more on the evolution of Bond as a character and like, even though it's a Bond movie and he should be front and center, he became more front and center than maybe he would have been in a previous iteration of it.
They Walking Dead it.
Speaking, I've got that show. I've got that show primed because I'm so curious how bad it is.
I mean, people seem to be liking the first few episodes.
It might be good. There's no.
I haven't watched it. Not my opinion.
Voice about Walking Dead shows at this point is irrelevant.
Not my opinion.
I need to see it. I need to see it and know for myself.
You need to see.
I'm so curious.
You need to see 42 minutes of it.
Yeah, like I need 42 minutes max. 38 minutes, that one episode, right? Wasn't it like 38 minutes, the one that we clocked?
Of an hour 18 episode.
Great. I'm telling you, when you watch it without commercials, when you have the system strip the commercials for you, it's great. It's concise. It's easy to go. You know what's funny? I kind of like want to rewatch The Walking Dead and just trail off into the sunset at just the right moment. And have that be my memory of it. No. Just like watch it until it gets it
Anthony, you just escaped from it like 18 months ago. You want to go back?
I want to go back and remember the good times.
You remember that 1,000-yard stare?
Walking Dead's an abusive relationship.
You remember that 1,000-yard stare when they asked Sean Connery if he will help them get back into Alcatraz?
Oh man. Well, anyway, I want to see that. I did watch. I watched all of Modern Family. I'm pretty sure since we last spoke.
Oh, all of it, shit.
No, I mean, not since you and I last spoke, but since we last recorded. That would be a doozy.
I mean, literally not enough hours. Not enough hours of the day.
Which I watched it for the first time, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was like, wow, I missed this one. Like, I don't know how or why. Maybe just, but it was good. I really enjoyed it.
That was one of those shows where anytime like I turned the TV on and it was on, I would catch a scene or three and I was like, oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
It like never grabbed me to watch the show, but like the bits and pieces of it I saw, I was like, I get why people like the show. Mm-hmm. It just was like never like motivated me to go watch it.
You know what's funny? To kind of circle back to our point from before of like advancing the whole story over the course of a season, this very much is not that.
Right? But it works for a comedy though. It's okay with the comedy.
It does, but until you realize that by doing that, they did tell a whole story because it was just about a family. And it was about like weird day-to-day stuff, like with like the goofy like groups of this family. But like how that ties together over the course of like whatever bajillion seasons there are of it, it's like they evolve and they change and they grow as people and they don't in some ways. And it's like, and having this patriarch character that like as like the tie through the whole thing, who like is just so annoyingly macho sometimes, but then also like has like this heart of gold and like these like when like his emotions can come through, like and like you can see the cracks. It's like the most beautiful scenes. It's so good. Like he had a quote that, I mean, dude, crying. Like I mean, granted, I've got kids now and it hit home. But it was just like, it's like, can't watch that again. Like it was too much. But like to pull that off and like that show, that is, it is for comedic purposes. It is like, it's supposed to be sit down for 30 minutes, escape, have fun, enjoy. But they have some really touching moments like throughout that series. And it's just like, man, they nailed it. They had a really great formula and an incredible chemistry between these like this misfit group of people that shouldn't work together, but do.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun time.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it.
There's a number of other things that I've watched, but I feel like at this point,
no, it's time. We'll have time to catch up next week too.
Yeah.
It's time for Oscars, I think.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, I did that awful accent, so we have to
do it, right?
Talk about the Oscars. So,
all right,
I watched. I want to say, let me bring up Best Picture real quick because I have the thing here.
Hang on, we're gonna do one thing first, real quick.
Fuck.
Did you watch Maestro?
No.
That's our only blind spot.
Okay, I was going to try to watch it last night, and then I got sucked into the Islanders game, and I was like, I'm not going to watch this now. Mm-hmm. So I watched the Islander game instead, and it paid off. They won, so it's great.
All right,
it's a nice comeback win. I am going to try and probably try to watch it over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I'd like to.
In anticipation
My intention is to watch.
Oscars.
So the short version, Maestro and Killers of the Flower Moon are my only holdouts, and I'm.
So that's our only
I
real
fully
blind
intend
spot.
to watch them. Yeah, I fully intend to watch them before Sunday.
So let me run through these real quick. Best pictures, because that's what I base it on. I know obviously some of the other major categories, but this is going to get the greatest overlap of the major categories.
The widest net you can cast.
Best picture: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Barbie's not a Best Picture nominee. Is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's not director. It is Best Picture.
Yes.
Okay.
Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm reading it off Oscars.org. God damn it.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought you were going. I didn't realize you were reading. I thought you were trying to remember them.
Oh no.
Go on.
I'm reading so I don't forget. Because there's 10 of them.
You're wrong. No.
I assure you, I am not.
Yeah.
Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. So I've watched Poor Things, Past Lives, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Holdovers, Barbie. It sounds like you watched the other ones I'm missing other than Maestro. So that's the only one we haven't. Neither one of us have seen.
That's our only full blind spot.
Do you want to start with Best Picture right here? Do we want to talk about this category?
You know what? Yeah, let's. Why not? Why not do it reverse Oscar style?
Okay. How about this? Give me your top three. Not like what, in your opinion, the top three Best Picture nominees.
From what I've seen, I will go Barbie, Holdovers, Oppenheimer.
Okay. For me, it's Holdovers, Oppenheimer, and Killers of the Flower Moon. No order, just those are my top three.
Yeah, the same. No order. Just okay. Cool. All right, that's good.
And you said you didn't see Killers.
I didn't see it yet. No, that one.
You still have time. It's on Apple.
Yeah. We'll probably try to watch it Friday or Saturday. Yeah. So I don't think that there's every year there's a forecast for who's going to win this award from all of the other award shows. It seems like it is. If it's not Oppenheimer, I would be very surprised.
I don't want to say very. It does seem more likely than not, by far, that it's going to be Oppenheimer. But if Killers won this, I wouldn't be shocked.
Sure, and I haven't seen it yet, but I wouldn't be shocked either. But like at the same time, right now I would just be like, if I had to put money on it, I would put money on Oppenheimer.
Agreed.
That being said, I want to focus on Oppenheimer first. Mm-hmm. You're okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. As you know, as fans of the show now, I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan's work. This is his second worst movie.
Oh.
It's not bad. It's very, very, very good. But of his catalog, I think it's his second worst movie.
Okay.
And I think the reason is that it's not his story. It's the same reason why his worst movie is not not only really, it's not really, I don't think it is really good. I don't think it's that great. In my opinion, is Insomnia. I don't think Insomnia is very good. Okay. Not his work.
I never saw that one. Which one is that one? I never saw.
That's Al Pacino and Robin Williams.
Oh, I forgot that's Nolan. Okay. Yeah, I've always wanted to see that movie. I have not seen it.
There is something to the adaptation. In that case, adaptation of another movie, and in this case, the adaptation of a book that I feel like it misses a piece of the essence of his movies, where he has kind of control over the story itself.
Mm.
And I mean, granted, it's historical, so obviously, right? But it lacks that I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to phrase it. There's a piece of his movies that is missing and I think it's because of that.
Interesting.
And that being said, I'm like, it's like still an 8 or a 9. Like it's like it's incredible, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not Interstellar. Like it's not one of his. It's not the movie that Christopher Nolan makes that makes me like my head explode. That makes me like, wow, like this is like the direction and cinematography are out of this world. The performances are incredible.
Well, I wonder now, how much did you know about the man Oppenheimer before?
Some of it.
Very little, I suspect.
I would say more than a little, but not like the depths that like they go with the character.
Okay. I mean, I was aware of him. I knew he headed the Manhattan Project.
Yeah. I granted, I had like gone a little bit on a deep dive when I heard the announcement of this movie because I was curious. So that's probably why.
But. I mean, I was curious because it was a biopic. It was, to the best of my knowledge, the first time that he was doing nonfiction in any meaningful way. Like Dunkirk was based on a real event that happened, but like the story itself is not a real
right.
Like it's inspired by a real event. Like there was the whole Dunkirk thing, but like he took a lot of liberties in telling that story, right? So like obviously that's in the ballpark of this, but this is like he's telling a true story. So I think what you're describing in his oeuvre, right? That what is so different about this is he is telling a story that factually happened. I mean, there's some details around the margins that he tweaked, but these things all happened more or less in a real way. And so I do think he had to juggle some interesting things to do the things that he likes to do, which is to say, tell a story in a non-conventional, non-chronological way. But at the end of the day, these are things that happened, and the order of the things happening matters. And so that is, forget about whether he's adapting something or not. The fact that it's not purely from the interests and the vagaries of his mind, and it's the fact that he's fitting his style onto a story that's already been told. It's immutable.
Yeah, I will say though, like fitting, I actually appreciated the fact like that. Those are the things that I liked was how he imprinted his style onto it. Like the idea of like Kim and I were like, you know, we watch it at home, so we were like talking through parts of it here and there, and it was like, okay, why is this in black and white? Why is this in color? This piece is before that piece, but it's also in color. At first, the first thing was like, okay, the color things are the black and white is post story, color is prime story, and then it turned out, oh no, it's not. It's color is Oppenheimer is the main character, and black and white is character name is
I forgot the character.
Name. Robert Downey Jr. is
it's his perspective
character, right? And I was like, wow, that was really cool. And once my brain synced to that piece is gone, and you just are able to make the switches, which I love. That is a thing of his style, right? Is once you figure out the formula, it makes like you get locked in, and you're like, okay, this is happening, that's happening, and you can follow like the timelines and whatnot, and it makes for a much more compelling unfolding story because you're following different paths at the same time. And I just love his movies for that. It was a little bit I couldn't quite figure out tell like before they start speaking or of like which piece was before or after another piece until they actually got into what they were talking about. So like there was the things from Oppenheimer's perspective that are like main storyline, pre and post storyline. Like there's like there's three portions of his timeline that are being explored at the same time in various scenes. And it's sometimes hard to connect the dots of which is happening. It took me a minute until somebody says something very specific, that the one where they're sitting around the table at that dinner or like kind of discussing is actually post the bomb. And it makes sense once you realize it and piece it together, but like it takes a minute to figure out where they are at before. And like all of that stuff is cool and engaging, and I love it. Those are all the things that I actually love the movie for. The performance. It's just, I think overall, while the story is fascinating, the exploration of the man is really interesting. I don't know what it is. It's just missing something that is Nolan in my opinion. And so was Insomnia way more so than this, which is also like an early movie in his catalog. Mm-hmm. But like I think it's more excusable in this case because there's not a lot of leeway because you are telling a thing that happened. I don't know.
I felt similar to you through at least, I want to say, the halfway or so point of the movie. And then I realized there was a gambit to this movie and how he made it. And the piece I was missing all along was while I was watching the movie, and I was like, oh, this is all very interesting, and it's well directed, and it's well acted, and it's a compelling story. But, like, what's the point? Like, I mean, like, I know the point, but, like, what's the point of why Christopher Nolan is making this movie? Like, I understand why someone would make this movie, but why him? And it was when, like, the bomb had gone off. So I guess this is probably more like 2/3 or so through the movie. And I was like, it still doesn't really feel Nolan-ish, and I'm not sure what it is that it's missing. And then you find out that this is all because Robert Downey Jr. is trying to fuck him. And I was like, oh, that's why he made this movie. Yeah. And that's what this movie is about. I'm locked in. Now I got it.
That's and you know what, that's totally fair. That is, and I completely agree with you. Like that, like when you were questioning it, like that is what's like figuring that part of it out. Absolutely.
I was like, here is the intrigue. This is the juicy thing we've been building to. It's just the longest it's ever taken for him to serve you the main entree.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, though, it's got hard limits on where it can actually go because it's a real thing that happened.
Which is, I assume, why he played it that way.
Yeah. Otherwise,
to paraphrase,
right?
Well, I was
the story's not interesting if you play it start to finish. It's interesting.
It's not like as interesting,
but as interesting.
To quote another Christopher Nolan movie, he played it pretty close to the vest on this one. Yeah, because this is a story that real life happened, that ostensibly any of us could know all of these details, but most of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
The intrigue, the juicy gossip of it all is what this is all about, because Robert Downey Jr. plays it straight and Oppenheimer doesn't reveal anything. So you don't understand what happened in their relationship. You don't understand that there isn't that there was something that happened in their relationship all along, until they pull the fucking sheet off of the thing and show you this monstrosity of this relationship. Is, oh god, it's as petty as the two of, like, a single slight that offended one person here, and it's played at the highest stakes table, right? Like, and so the final third of the movie should be kind of boring minutia, he said, she said, and instead it's riveting because of everything that the first 2/3 set up. We're talking about titans of society and business and academia and science and war and genocidal action. Like, it's all of this wrapped up in one guy not liking how another guy treated him.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's funny. Like, I don't want to come across as like hard on the movie. Like, it's like I said, 8 or 9. Like, that's a hell of a score. It's just, I'm like, my bar is set at 10 for him just because he is that good, and it didn't reach it, and that's fine, and it's still great. It's just not that. But like, that's like the thing where it's like, this is likely going to win. Like, more than likely, I feel like the odds are ever in its favor. Like, this is going to win Best Picture, most likely. And I'm okay with that. I think that's fine. I just don't actually think that of this list, it's my pick.
I think,
which is surprising, considering
overall, it's not a super strong year. It seems like for the group of these movies. Like, not that any of these movies is bad. Mm-hmm. I saw 60% of them, so, a grain of salt. But I liked all of the ones I saw. I thought they were all good movies.
That's the thing. They were all. I'm not going to say all. Hang on. I feel like there was one that I didn't actually. I actively didn't like. I'm trying to remember what it was, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I'm curious to talk about it a little later if we can, or if we want to. But I would like to hear your thoughts on Poor Things, because we haven't talked about it since you've seen it.
For sure, yeah. I think we'll get into that one pretty significantly. You're nothing. I mean, again, I'm expecting that Killers of the Flower Moon is still the one that could take me by surprise and be like, okay, I like this. This is my pick. I will say, of this, the two movies that like stand out to me the most are Barbie and The Holdovers.
So I before we close the book on Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
I want to split this into two different thoughts, right?
Okay.
There's the movies that I like enjoy or yeah, that's the way to say it. As far as the movies I enjoy, there's a bunch of his movies I really love. This is on a short list of his best movies. This movie is better than The Dark Knight Rises. It is.
Oppenheimer is better than
Yeah.
like academically.
All of it together. The objective and subjective. All tied together.
I don't know that I agree with that.
In my opinion.
Okay.
This is the better movie. This is a better movie than Batman Begins. I enjoy Batman Begins tremendously and significantly
The thing
more.
is, I would agree with that.
But I think this is a better movie than that movie. The quality of the movie, which includes the objective.
I would agree with that.
And I think this is better than a bunch of the movies he's made. I would put it up with, I don't know how I would stack it against, especially since I've seen it one time versus a bunch of his other movies I've seen so many times. In my opinion, my favorite movie of his is probably The Prestige. And again, that's a balancing of the objective and subjective.
Mm-hmm.
I think objectively, they go up against each other pretty well. Subjectively, I mean, I've watched The Prestige so many times, and I'll watch it a bunch more times in my life. I'll watch Oppenheimer a few more times for sure. I don't know that that's going to be something that like I'm just going to like put on a bunch of times though, because like it's not that type of movie.
Yeah.
This is the movie that is the most objectively of the Nolan movies, with maybe the exception of Dunkirk, the one that he's so obviously going for an Oscar. Which, like, I don't have a problem with that because, like, he brings.
I can see what you're saying.
So, like, from an academic standpoint, from a critical lens, this is one of his best movies for sure. You'd put it up with The Dark Knight. You'd put it up with The Prestige. You put it up with Memento.
Yeah, I will. It's I get what you're saying. So I listened to this podcast, ATP, where they talk about best, first, and favorite. Like if you were to rank go through a catalog, and what would be out of this catalog, what is the first thing you should experience? What's the best one, and what's your favorite one? How would you answer that for his movies?
First, best, and favorite. First is Inception.
Okay.
Best is going to probably be Dark Knight, and favorite, probably The Prestige.
Okay. So for me, first, best, favorite with him, first is Memento.
Oh, I think you would scare off a casual fan.
But the thing is, I feel like if you can't appreciate Memento, you won't appreciate the nuances of the rest of his movies.
I think you have it backwards. I think that's a boomer bust approach. Like, if you love...
I intend that, though. If you don't appreciate that one, I don't want you to watch that.
If you ask the average person who's just like, yeah, I like movies, but like doesn't have strong opinions on movies, more likely than not, they'll have seen Inception and have an opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most accessible of his movies, despite the fact that its end is a conundrum. Like it's his most accessible to a casual fan of movies. I think that's the one that's you, like your first entry point, because like if you show Memento to someone as their first entrance to Nolan and they love the movie, they'll love all of his movies.
Yeah.
But there's a high...
That was me. But yeah.
But there's a high degree chance that they'll be like, fuck this movie, and not give the other ones a chance.
That's fair. I still think that, like...
It's a risk-reward thing. Like, what's your risk tolerance?
It is. It definitely is a risk-reward thing, but I think for, if you want to get into Christopher Nolan movies, I want you to get in with the ability to appreciate them at their fullest, and in that case, I think Memento is first. I think that's the one that you watch first. I think that Interstellar is his best, and I think that Dark Knight is my favorite.
So I feel like you would try and introduce the catalog of Nolan to someone the way you would like trophy fishing, where you give them Inception, you reel them in a little bit, and then you kind of let them out a little bit with okay, now here have a prestige. It's like, okay, maybe that worked for you. Maybe it didn't work for you. All right, can I introduce you to a little Batman Begins and Dark Knight? Okay, we're going to reel you back in a little bit more. Have a little Interstellar. Do you like that? Okay, you're going back out to see. Okay, we're going to reel you back in, and let's try okay, we're going to do a Memento. Oh, you thought that was kind of cool, but it was a little back. Yeah, you don't know. We're okay. We're going to let some a little bit more line out.
Yeah.
Have a little Dunkirk. See how you like that. Okay, you're not into war movies. That's fine. Like,
And the thing is, I feel that one of the things that is consistent with his actually that's not fair to say. The time mechanics are a big thing for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in the Batman movies because they don't really play there.
Honestly, the very first time I watched Batman Begins, I was a little confused on the timeline. To be fair, I was like 14 or 15, and I was, for whatever reason, not super excited to watch the movie. I might have even dozed off for 5 minutes. I don't know, but
unbelievable.
Well, I think at that time I had been, and it had been a few years, but I was so like over the Batman and Robin thing and like the weird like phase that Batman movies were in at that time. And like I didn't know anything about it, and I feel like Batman Begins didn't really get a tremendous amount of marketing, or at least not a tremendous amount of effective marketing.
Yeah, I feel like you're probably right about that. That kind of tracks with my memory of it.
So I remember just being kind of whatever about that movie. And then when The Dark Knight Rises, I don't even remember being super excited, but I went to see it with like a bunch of my friends, and we saw it in the theaters, and it fucking kicked ass. And then I went back and rewatched Batman Begins and liked it way more.
Sure. And then you watch it again in front of the Dark Knight, right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. We've probably spent too much time
way too
on
much
Christopher
time.
Nolan.
Let's talk about The Holdovers because we both saw that one.
Okay.
It was both in our top 3, so let's...
The Holdovers took me by surprise. In my mind, I feel like I see that Paul Giamatti's in something, and like for whatever reason I roll my eyes. And I don't know why. I don't know why that was.
Oh, I'm just the opposite. I think he's a very good actor.
I think that's because I'm not sure that I've quite given him a fair shake. And before watching The Holdovers this holiday season, I watched a Christmas movie with him and Paul Rudd, and I was like, man, this guy's a good actor.
I'm sorry, what movie is this now?
A
Christmas movie with Paul Giamatti and Paul Rudd?
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with this.
Let me see if I can find the name of it. But anyway, like that was like, I was really paying attention to his performance, and I was like, wow, man, like, this guy is good. Like I know people have been talking about it like forever, but like I've seen it now. Like I maybe I was more open to it or something. But I was like, man, this is great. And then to see him in this movie, I was like, he plays really rough around the edges characters
a lot
that that kind of win you over. Like either they win you over or you can understand them by the end. Similar to like what we were talking about earlier, like the guy from Suits, where I'm like, I still don't like you, but I get you. And like, and I think that's a skill.
So there's a word for that.
Okay.
It's pathos. He has strong pathos.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
I had to look it up real quick just to double check that I had that definition correct, because you were describing it and I was like, this is that thing that like critics talk about all the time. He's got strong sense of pathos. He does.
Hang on. What the hell is this movie? I don't know why I can't.
I honestly don't have.
You know what? Here, I'm just going to do this. Paul Giamatti
Christmas.
And Paul movie. Christmas movie. It is All Is Bright. Anyway, I watched that this year. I was really enjoying it. Went into The Holdovers a little bit later, and like having that good experience with him just beforehand. And I was like, man, like this is really good. Like it locks into a certain time frame period piece wise, and I appreciated that. The other character, the student in the movie, I'm pretty sure it's his first role, which is something.
Is it his first role ever, or just his first like substantial one?
Maybe first substantial one. You
are right. Whichever version that is, he is not.
And like what a performance,
Mr. Tully.
Yeah, it's a heavy storyline, and it's just like his he's like Paul Giamatti's character. I don't know how am I trying to. He feels like he doesn't deserve anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
They feel like a cheater, and he's just kind of
imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, very much so. And like, but it gets the better of him for the most
literally
part.
His only credit. Sorry.
Yeah, it gets the better of him for the most part, but then he rises to the occasion, but he's still who he. I don't know. Like, it's just he does it like it's just so captivating to watch the performance.
Well, I will say,
and his eye. Oh my god, his eye! Like that
eyes.
No, it's the one.
Yeah,
and very very young Frankenstein. I'm fairly certain there was a scene where it switched. Like
I was gonna say, it's just the one eye, actually.
Yeah.
So, actually, kind of in a way similar to Oppenheimer, the first half to 2/3 of this movie, I was like, okay, it's a good movie, but what's it about?
Yeah.
And then they go to Boston. I was like, oh, okay, that's what this movie's about. Got it.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. It was a very good movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't know that this is a best picture movie. I mean, like, I'm fine with
the ones that I've watched are best picture movies, but yeah.
I picked it because I needed a third movie to pick. It's a really good movie. I liked it a lot, and we can talk much more when we get into the acting stuff, because I think there's a lot more to be said for the acting and even for the writing, actually, than there is for the directing of this movie.
Sure.
It's a very good movie. It wouldn't offend me if it won, but it really doesn't.
It won't.
No,
it's not gonna
and it shouldn't.
No, but the nod is. I think the nod is nice.
Yeah,
because it had something.
Yeah, I have no problem with it being nominated. It's fine.
But I can't remember. I'm terrible with character names, but the lunch lady and her storyline and the way that the two like more I want to say like more main characters like Paul Giamatti and the student, like the way that they kind of invest in her character and like become like this little family on this holdover break. Like it's really, I don't know, it's sweet, it's charming, as like difficult as everybody's going through something difficult, and everybody's like kind of has like a roughness to them because of their experiences, but they're all kind of in like they're able to land in the same boat because they have not similar like traumas, but like various like close to same levels of trauma in like certain spaces, except the lunch lady, I mean, kind of takes the cake there. It's just like there's something about it like where they're able to bond over it, where it's like it's just very human. It's a very human story, and I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
Their forced like time together allows them all to have the vulnerability to process together. It's really
right where they probably would never align and become this family unless they were shackled together for this purpose, and it works, and they're all better for
and isolated, like
it's something.
So let's talk Barbie first, because we both seen it. It's on your 3. It's not on my 3. So let's talk about that. I'll let you lead.
The reason why I pick Barbie is I watch movies for entertainment. I like to be entertained. Mm-hmm. Barbie is a very fun movie that also has something to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And to me, that's the best balance. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's meaningful, but it's also like, it's a romp. The whole thing, right? And it's like, that's something special. That's like, I want more of those movies in my life. I enjoy those. Like, and it's really like, it's some of the stuff they explore is, I mean, it's heavy, but it's done in I don't know, in a silly way, and it's the performances are really great, and you can laugh and cry and have such a good time with it, and it's just like it does make it stand out against like the rest of like the movies that I saw last year, in a way where like it makes sense to me that it's on the list. now that I think about it more. At first, I was like, I don't think this is a Best Picture nominee. But now that I'm thinking, the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about it a little bit deeper, and I'm like, actually, I think this is closer to my pick for Best Picture, just because of how I engage with movies and how this is more on that spectrum than almost any of the other ones.
It was a very distinct movie, specifically very visually distinct. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really strongly justified and even possibly could win in some of those categories for some of the technical categories or even like costume and production design. Like, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Although I think it will face stiff competition from Poor Things, and we could talk about that.
Sure.
But again, this is a movie that, nominated. That's fine. It was a good movie. I think, though, the fact that this makes your top 3, the fact that this is a justified nomination, again, goes to show that this is not a very strong class overall.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I don't
want to take anything away from it.
No, I'm not trying to take away from the movie itself because I like the movie. Good movie. I watched it the other day.
The thing is, if it won, I would be happy that it won.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool for it. It's just, I mean, even like writing, I thought was like a bigger thing than the direction in this movie. So, I mean, writing, performance, again, like costume, production design, like that. Those are the standouts of this movie, which all get tied into direction. But it just, I mean, it's definitely not formulaic. Like it's got its own kind of little subsection of being somewhat unique. It was a really cool concept. You could understand how this could just be a commercial movie. Like this could have easily turned into The Internship or some such movie. That's just like an extended advertisement for something. And I mean, it is an advertisement in its way, but that's not really, or like, you know, the Lego movie or whatever, but like even the Lego movie we've enjoyed, and all that. So you can do both at the same time.
Yeah.
I just wasn't like wowed by it as a movie. Very good movie. I enjoyed my time with it. Thought it was cool. I liked what they were going for. I thought it was a really strong execution. I would watch it again. Like it's just not a Best Picture.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. It's for me. It's funny. It's one of those movies where like I've grown more fond of it the more it sat with me. Like where like I watched it, I was like, this was fun. And
to be fair, I just watched it Sunday, so like it's still fresh.
Each week that goes by that I think about it, I'm like, I keep thinking about it. Like it keeps popping up in my head, scenes and parts of it. It's just like I get a chuckle out of it, and I don't know. It definitely has something. It's got a spark that I can't quite quantify. But like I could, for that alone, I could be like, yeah, get on the Best Picture list. That's because I can't explain it, and it has that feeling. Like, yeah, put it there because like, and if it wins, I would be happy about it. That'd be awesome.
I mean, it deserves to be on this list. I think my biggest laugh in the movie was all of the suits roller skating together, and Will Ferrell saying it was something along the lines of like it's not about the money. Why else would I spend my entire life in this ballroom or this boardroom as a CEO? It's not about the money. It's about supporting girls' dreams in the least creepy way possible.
Yeah, there are one-liners in there that are. My favorite one is I don't know. I mean I'm paraphrasing, but kind of was like I've kind of lost interest in patriarchy when I realized it wasn't about horses.
Yeah, what's her?
Also, the way that he uses the word patriarchy is funny. Like just like.
Well, because he thought it was a place. He thought it was a country first.
Yeah, it's very silly.
There was. Especially, I didn't understand this. I knew there was a whole thing around Michael Cera's character, Alan.
Yeah.
I didn't know the
details. I had to look into it because I was so curious.
I don't remember that. I mean, it might have been the 80s before we were born. I don't know.
Right.
But seeing, especially the payoff of this in the credits, when he's talking about how he wants to get out of there, when he like smuggles himself in the back of the car when the two of them are leaving, and he's like complaining about all the things about it, and like under his breath he goes, "All of Ken's clothes fit me," and then in the credits they show that as one of the taglines of the doll. One of the selling points on the box of the toy was "All of Ken's clothes fit." Like that was one of the ways they sold this toy was you could just put Ken's clothes on him.
Yeah, I want to.
Michael Cera crushed it in a pretty small, thankless role.
So ridiculous. Though, I will say though, like, maybe we could talk about this more when we get to the actress nominees. I mean, I think she killed it, like as that role, and like it was perfect. And I'm surprised
that she wasn't nominated.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, I had kind of in support of that point, I forgot Helen Mirren was narrating the movie for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Until she starts talking about how she's ugly.
If you're gonna cast somebody, like
which I knew
that was so good.
I heard about that line months ago, forgot about it, saw it happen in real time, remembered it, and I was like, I busted out laughing. It was like
there's a handful of like you can't hold it back out loud laughs. That was one of them.
Yeah, and also it's probably a part of why she wasn't nominated. Also, which like makes it even that much more meta.
Yeah.
But we can get to that later.
For sure.
I want to go to Killers real quick. It's one of the two movies that you hadn't seen yet. I'll be curious when you're done with it. I suspect you'll include this in your top 3. I'd be curious.
I have a feeling too, just on trailers alone. But
I'm curious to see which of Barbie and Holdovers you ultimately decide to drop out of your 3 when you make that move. Not that it matters. The podcast will be done, but just like for the sake of us talking about it all. This movie is devastating. It's and in a way that's really resonant. In a way that I didn't find some of the other movies in recent years that we've done. I don't want to go back to like the history of the Oscars because I'm not a scholar in that way.
Sure. But
like, consider a few years ago, if we were going to make somewhat of an analogy to this, like Roma, we didn't like that movie. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty bleak story, right? And this is as well.
Yeah.
That movie feels too personal, like it's very specific to the couple of people in that movie, whereas this one, as much as there is that in this movie, Killers,
sure,
it's endemic of a situation going on to very many people. I think it's much easier to connect with that story, for better and worse, and worse, really. It's a fascinating story. It's a crucial part of American history. One that I think is probably overlooked by a lot of us because,
sure,
I mean, there's that saying like all politics are local, and it's not even to get to like the quote unquote political aspect of this. It's to go to the fact that a whole lot of people turned up dead that shouldn't have died.
Yeah,
and all those people tended to be Native American, more or less, and they were turning up dead because they had access to a lot of wealth.
It's like the Pawnee poster, but it's not a joke.
Oh, much worse, actually. Much less hyperbolic. They didn't tie any Native Americans to a tree and fire a cannon into them, for instance. But so much more insidious and terrifying because it wasn't just, oh, there's some land here that we would like because like we want to build a town here. It's, oh, there's some land here that you specifically, not your tribe, you specifically, this person, owns this land under which millions of dollars of oil resides, and I would like that.
Right.
Very much. And I'm going to do the worst things to you. I'm not just going to kill you.
Yeah.
I'm going to... You haven't seen the movie yet. I don't want to spoil what it's about.
I appreciate it.
If you haven't seen it yet, if anyone hasn't seen it yet. Because I didn't actually actually know what this story was about. Like, I knew the gist of it, but not the specifics of it, and the specifics are what makes it so horrifying.
I feel like, and you talking about this, it made me realize something. This year's Oscars should be titled "Various Levels of Devastating."
Yeah, and a lot of times I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we look at other years where like movies like Moonlight or Dallas Buyers Club or like this is not new, right?
No.
There's art tends to be derivative of pain, and whether that be your pain or someone else's pain, when you're making a movie that's going to be Oscar nominated, like even Barbie, which is both literally and metaphorically like bubblegum pop, it's still built on the backbone of the pain of women in society, right? Like there's a lot of jokes to help. It's the spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down.
Right.
Literally.
Oh.
There are not many jokes to help the medicine go down in this movie.
Sure.
And the ending of this, I will spoil this ever so slightly. It's a really slight spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
The final scene of the movie is not movie. It's the only time I've ever seen him do this or anything like it. It ends with Martin Scorsese just reading the details of the end of all of this.
Oh man.
So
I got chills considering that, like how that'll play out.
Yeah, and the context for it makes sense, and how they deliver it. I won't spoil that for you or what he has to tell you. But to be clear, I knew that this was based on a book. I did not know what that book was or what it was about.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is about, the book is about the founding of the FBI, and 3/4 of the movie is not about that. The final quarter is. You understand how and why, and the choices made in adapting this book to tell this story in this way is fascinating. It's something everyone should watch one time. I don't know that you'll have the stomach to watch it more than one time.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think this will win the Best Picture. It probably could and maybe should. The direction, the cinematography, the performances, the music, they're all incredible. And again, I think Oppenheimer will win. I have no problem with it winning. Mm-hmm. You could make an argument it should win. It's a worthy candidate. This one could just as easily win. Because they don't show it. Like Oppenheimer is about hundreds of thousands of people dying in an instant, and many more thousands dying over the next several years as a result of it.
Yeah.
But because it's divorced from that story, it keeps it at arm's length.
So
it's hard to think of it as devastating. It's this because you see it up close, even though significantly less people die in this, although quite a few of them. I don't know. It's hard to measure those things.
You make a good point. And with the Oppenheimer thing, the thousand more dying like later. It's actually, I think the more that I think about it, the more like I'm kind of pulling for Oppenheimer is actually the last 30 seconds of the movie, where it's not thousands more after. It's the millions that follow in the years after. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes it so devastating. That concept of we did the math and it was near zero, and it's like it was that low probability. That's what hit because of the implication of what doing this did. It didn't physically set the atmosphere on fire, but we set the atmosphere on fire. Like that realization in the last like few seconds of the movie. I was like, oh, like if you didn't think Best Picture, like I feel like that is like, there it is.
And also, I mean, I thought it harkened back to
Baron Harkonnen?
No. You
remember back to
You remember The Imitation Game?
Yeah.
When they crack the code finally, and they have to make the brutal calculus of war, what do we stop and what don't we?
Yeah.
And you hear the arguments, the justifications from Oppenheimer about why do we use this or why do we not use this? Mm-hmm. And if we use this, do we use it in anger or do we use it Does it end the war because we've killed so many people? Or does it end the war because they're worried what we'll do next?
Right.
Is essentially what he's getting at. It's the same thing, right? It's the calculus of war. How many people do we have to kill in an instant to prove to you that it's folly to continue this, and it's just as much folly to ever do this to anyone ever again?
Yeah.
That I found myself in that scene where he explains the justification for using it.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself thinking about The Imitation Game, which is that's a fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched that several times. I will watch it several more times. It's a fantastic movie, even for as devastating as that one can be. In different ways.
I agree.
But it's a tremendous movie.
I agree. I feel like the more I think about this, the more I can keep talking about Oppenheimer. So let's. What do you want to go to?
Sorry, I bogged us down a little bit. Well,
no, I mean I kind of did, but
let's go to. Well, we're on this. Let's go director then, because we're talking about picture, and I feel like these two categories.
Oh, I thought you wanted to go through the rest of the best pictures, but.
I mean, we can. Let's say that's again. Let's go through the major awards first.
Sure.
Let's do directing, since these two categories are inextricably linked. So we have Anatomy of a Fall, Justine Triet, Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan, Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos, The Zone of Interest, Jonathan Glazer.
So, I do. While I don't think that, while I feel like Oppenheimer is not Christopher Nolan's best movie, it does showcase a lot of his directorial chops, and it's that for me, without question.
In some ways, this movie feels like his Revenant, where that wasn't Leo's best performance, but it's his most performance, and it's it's the performance at the right time, and it's going to make up for past wrongs of him not having won and more worthy candidates in earlier times. Right? This is him winning this time. If you want to go down this path, is trying to solve for the mistake of him not winning for The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
This all started because he wasn't even nominated for The Dark Knight.
Sure.
The way that the Oscars have changed in the last 15 years is to correct for that original sin of not even nominating him for that movie, which was the one he probably should have won for.
Right.
And he will more likely than not win this year to correct that mistake. We've seen this a million times with the Oscars, where it's almost a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is a worthy candidate, but probably not his best in that way.
Yeah. Well, I don't actually, I don't know. I have to really sit with that a little bit longer, because I try to figure out, it's kind of hard. I have a hard time quantifying and explaining what I'm looking at in judging directing.
Mm-hmm. But
to me, while I'm there's something about that movie that I do feel like his hands on it, there it is. It's, to me, it's a winner for this category. Whereas something like Anatomy of a Fall, I don't actually understand that it's in this category for directing.
Okay.
I get why it's in the category for Best Picture. It's not my pick, but I get how it gets there.
Yeah.
I don't get how it gets in this category. I don't know what specifically about directing shines through. There's something with Oppenheimer, it's kind of the culmination of the cinematography, the actors' work, what they can do as actors, and what is clearly designed and provoked by the director. There's things like that where that's where I'm feeling I think I see it, because it is. I mean, it's subjective. That's I see that coming through, and I think that Oppenheimer is a pick for that. Zone of Interest would be a really close second for me in this. Okay. And the reason being is I was so uncomfortable watching that movie. And it's so dark, and it feels so wrong to be watching the movie through that lens. To be watching this point in time through the lens of the Commandant of Auschwitz. It's unsettling. And
I haven't seen the movie, but I suspect it's similar to the sequences in Schindler's List, where you're spending time with the Ray Fiennes character, who is.
Well, I mean, that's one of my blind spots. It's on my list. I haven't seen.
Oh, you've never seen that? Okay.
No.
So I've only
It's
seen
one of my shortcomings.
I've only seen the movie once. We actually were required to watch it in high school. We watched it in class.
Okay.
There was a week or two period where all of our English classes and history classes during that time, it was like the school had all of the English and social studies teachers collaborate in doing a unit on the Holocaust at the same time. So it was like I said, it was a week or two. Like we read, was it Night by Elie Wiesel? We read that. We watched Schindler's List. There was other stuff involved with it too.
Sure.
Those are like the two big like pillars of the whole thing during that same period of time of those couple of weeks. So I watched that movie in class. I mean, it's another movie where it's like everyone needs to watch it once. It's not something you revisit because like, oh yeah, I love that movie. Like it's not like, which is in no way, shape, or form like a denigration of the movie. It's just like it's so heavy. It's not something you just like throw on in the background while you're cooking dinner. It's not that type of movie.
Well, there's. I'm going to highlight a couple of things from this that make it stand out. One of, obviously I mentioned like it's uncomfortable to sit through because it feels wrong to sit and watch it through this lens. The ability to shoot it and get the actors and everybody on board in this way where they portray very believably that they're not doing anything wrong. There's no hint of remorse. And it's scary. And it's almost like, and it's dismissive. It's alarming. Like, and it has to be a true portrayal for things to have gotten to the point that they got. Yeah. Right. And that's the reality of that is it's horrifying, and it turns
if you've read anything of the Nuremberg trials, there were plenty of people I think who viscerally rejected what they were doing while doing it. There was a lot of other people who tried to deaden themselves to it, and there was a lot of them who were like, their defense on the stand was, I was just doing what I was told.
So there's what I thought was interesting.
And then obviously there was a bunch of them who were like gung-ho for doing it too. Like many of them as well. And those. Sure.
Well, what I thought was interesting is in the description of the movie, it makes a comment. It's like there's a commentary about complacency and like, to quote Boondock Saints, the indifference of good men. Yeah. Like there's a commentary of that in the description, but it's not really shown. It happens at a couple points where like a character, like the mother of the commandant's wife leaves, and you can see that she leaves because she's uncomfortable. Like they live outside of the gates of Auschwitz. It's terrifying. I mean,
it's not like a huge spoiler, but like that's like a whole thing in Schindler's List. Like, so I forget the name of the character, but I guess he's the commandant of whatever. I don't remember if it was supposed to be a real one or it has been. It was a real story. I don't remember which concentration camp it was, but the Ray Fiennes character, I mean, he lives inside of the compound because one of the iconic scenes of the movie, horrifying as it is, he wakes up in the morning. I don't know if it was his girlfriend, his wife, whatever, is in bed next to him. He gets up, goes, takes a piss, stretches. He takes his rifle, puts it over his shoulder, he stretches, and then he sights down the barrel as there are Jews walking, doing what they're doing within the, because remember, some of these were work camps before ultimately they were exterminated or whatever. And he starts doing target practice, but not aiming to kill in that case. He's just having a bit of fun. He's just shooting and watching the reaction. Shooting at the ground at people's feet, watching their reaction. And it's... he lives inside the fence. In the headquarters, the fortress, the palace, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Ugh. But so, on the directing front though, like to be able to portray that and like with the ability to like kind of abandon the idea that it's wrong so that you can focus on these people that are just going about their day to day, which is like terrifying. And then like to show like a little bit of a crack in like a character in the same world that like seems to agree, but also like can be turned by the fact by being so near to how horrible this is.
Mm-hmm.
To one thing that's really interesting, and maybe this, I feel like these scenes alone could be why they like it would be nominated. There's a couple of clips where it's like it's time to transition a portion of the story, but before they transition to the next thing in the story, they cut to a girl like hiding food in the mud, hiding food by working tools like within the camp, and it's a photo negative, the whole thing, like that those scenes. It almost looks like it's CGI, but it's just inverted. It's a negative like playing out, and it depicts the polar opposite of what the rest of the movie is.
Yeah.
And just the choice to do that and to do that like at just the right times, like here and here. Like just to show there is another side of it, it increases the gravity of the other side. And I was like it was very effective. And then like there's one other scene of the commandant like kind of wrenching at the end of the movie, like he's like seems like he's gonna throw up, but he's dry heaving, and the horror of the fact that it's not because of what he's done, like it's just like it's like the weight of like trying to kind of reach further and be like, you know, promote himself further like in his ranks. Yeah. It's not because of like what he's done. It's because he's you know trying to do more, like, and he's like it's like the pressure of work if your work was valuable, but it's the opposite. It's damaging to humanity, but he's wrenching over the fact that he's like trying to get ahead. I don't know, it's so I felt so sick after watching that movie, but like to that point I get the director nominee.
Yeah, director is one of those, I don't want to say ambiguous, but like amorphous type of things where it's like you kind of strike a balance of, well, the actors did a great job. Was it because the actors are great, or is it because the direction was great? You know,
right?
The story was compelling. Is it because the writing was great, or because of the execution of the writing? You know, it can help to have some big set piece scenes. Because
the scene was great. Was it the setting of the scene, or was it the production design?
But even that,
a million of these.
The places where you can like try and find to feel something like concrete, and that is like, oh, there was a big action scene in a war movie, and that's direction, right? You know, there was, you know, some incredible sequence of where the writing and the where we zoomed in on this one and we had a tracking shot and we shot this in black and white. Like those are ways that you could try to show off direction. It can be hard in a very like talky movie, which it sounds like there's probably not a lot of big action scenes in this movie that you're describing. And
there's not much action. There's not much talking. It's literally just scenes.
Okay. And this is where you start to get into the really technical and academic standpoint of these things, where it's like, that's probably a blind spot for us overall.
Yeah, I definitely struggle with putting my finger on what should be like a tick for the director versus the editor versus the actor versus the writer, right? But like when this is like one of those scenarios where like it's actually the culmination of those things, and like when you can spot it, then it feels like that's the director.
But it's not always easy to spot.
Exactly.
I'm glad, like, nothing against her in any way. It's just like I'm glad I don't have to debate the merits of this with Past Lives, because like that was a good movie, and like there was some artistic framing and tracking of things, and I'm sure direction came into some of how the pregnant pauses in between when someone said something and all of that. and that's all. That all has to do with directing, but it has to do with a lot of other things because it has to do with script and performance and all that sort of stuff. It would be really hard for someone like me to evaluate why that should or should not win for best director. So I think what you're saying with Zone of Interest, it's going to be tough. And I actually know almost nothing about Anatomy of a Fall. I saw the other 3 nominees. I mean, there is a lot to be said for Poor Things direction. Like I said before, I think that there was probably a lot more to be said for acting and set design and costume design. Now, he has input in that stuff, but...
Yeah, I would... So, I thought that at first, too, and the more that I thought about Poor Things, the concept is so outlandish, like the production and the story, it's so outlandish that without a competent director, it won't work at all, I don't think.
That's true. Well, but with this specific director, this movie doesn't get made in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Right.
So, like, there is something to be said for that. But on the other hand, I have some specific criticisms of this movie that are also tied directly to him that I think subtract from his score, if you're going to put it so bluntly. Which is not the end of the world. Like, it's just, it all goes into the equation. This is, again, I think would go up between Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon. And again, I think both would be worthy. But I think there's a little bit more wow factor to some of the Oppenheimer stuff that I would lean, actually, in a more meaningful way for direction in this case than I would even for Best Picture. I would almost even lean the other way.
Yeah. To go, just to touch briefly on Anatomy of a Fall, it's an interesting movie. It's an interesting story, but this is like one of the ones where like I clearly don't know what to look for in directing because I would have never put it up for this because there wasn't anything that I spotted that I thought, wow, that was a great job on the director's behalf. Whereas like in these other movies that I'm mentioning, like I could see things that I'm assuming are the director's choices that make it, worthwhile for a nominee.
Yeah. Let's go.
Zone of Interest.
Let's go to actor in a leading role.
All right, that's at the top of my list over here. Okay.
So we have Bradley Cooper for Maestro. We have Colman Domingo for Rustin. Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. And Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Yeah.
Okay. So while American Fiction is not on my short list for Best Picture, Jeffrey Wright was like really, really good in that role. And I for me, like it's Cillian Murphy all the way, just because I already like him and I like what he does, and I think that he did I think he portrayed that character incredibly and believably, and I don't see Cillian Murphy, I see the character he's portraying, and that's a good actor, right? Like it's just he becomes the character. And I actually felt the same way about Jeffrey Wright. I've seen him in a million things, but he's like there's actors that you see and you're like, oh, it's that actor playing this role. Honestly, I love Robert Downey Jr., but he's Robert Downey Jr. like in the role. Like it's like he shows through.
Yeah.
Right? Cillian Murphy is never the same to me. And I think that's a testament to his performances. I think that he is very much who the character is. I couldn't guess what Cillian Murphy is like in real life from watching him in his roles. Whereas I feel like I could guess what Robert Downey Jr. is like in real life watching his roles.
It's funny.
Does that make sense?
He's a really good actor, and the handful of things I've heard him, it seems like acting is almost a burden to him sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's interesting. Like a lot of times he's just like, it's kind of all, not like acting is all bullshit, but like all of the trappings that go with it.
Mm-hmm. It's
all kind of a bullshit. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, that's, I guess, kind of refreshing to hear on occasion or whatever. But I don't know. In some ways, it almost feels like Jeffrey Wright and Paul Giamatti kind of go together in this, because both of them have made careers of being, I would say, more than a character actor, but kind of in that style where they're not traditional leading men.
Sure.
And both really, really good
weaving
actors.
effect, but a different, but more on screen time.
Yeah, and both having roles that are like leading roles occasionally, but more it's like they're in service of something else more, but just more screen time than a character would have, more impact on the story than a character actor would have. It's funny that they're both nominated at this same time.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people. Paul Giamatti was really put on the map, I think, with Sideways. I never saw the movie.
Neither have I. I definitely want to watch it though. After the last year of watching some of his movies.
Well, and it's the same writer director Alexander Payne for both these movies.
Oh, okay.
So there is some connective tissue there.
Interesting.
And he's been the star or co-star in a bunch of things. I mean, he's Billions was billed as him and Damian Lewis. They were 1A and 1B in that story. It's the two of them butting heads off and on throughout the course of the show. I don't know that Jeffrey Wright's ever really had an ability to be that sort of billing in anything.
Sure.
At least in most American works. I don't know if he's done more stuff in the UK where he's been more of a leading role other than this. So,
Gotcha. I forget. Sorry. Did you see American Fiction?
No, I really wanted to, and I just have not gotten to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why renting something for $20 tends to be more offensive to me than going to a theater to pay.
Yeah, at that point, I'm like, let me buy it now. Let me buy it now.
Yeah, but like, I don't really want to buy it either, or anything. Like, not just this specific thing. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it. I feel like when I have like this thing about like, the downloading of movies is a gray area to me because I feel like the studios and the networks and all of the stuff they create the barrier to entry in a weird way that it doesn't make sense and it's not consistent, where it's like I'm okay with downloading it sometimes only because I don't find that the options that are being provided to me are just. They almost seem...
I've gotten to the point in my life where I want to go to a theater to see a big movie because like that's the point of it. It's an event. But also those are the people or the situations I'm less sympathetic to from the perspective of sending my dollars to them. I want more now to be able to support movies like that, actually, like American Fiction and The Holdovers and all of that. But the paradox being like I don't feel that I need to go to a theater to see those movies. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's a weird situation, but like we've reached a very real stage, and we talked about this a few months ago. It might only be 2 episodes ago for all I can remember, but several months ago. The idea of paying for what you enjoy, and if you want what you enjoy to continue to be made, like at a certain point, it's nice that there are avenues to do these things there where you don't have to pay. Because at the end of the day, like we may end up having to eat cereal for dinner. But on the other hand, if we want to continue to enjoy the things that we enjoy and we want to continue to say, yeah, they deserve more money. Well, that money's only going to come if you pay for them to make it. Like, it's in a real way. Like you, the consumer, have the opportunity to dictate. Like if there's a lot of people, us included, who complain, why do they make this? Why don't they make that? We have, in our own way, a limited ability to influence that. Pay for the things that you care about.
Yeah. It's strange. I definitely like. I don't know. It's so weird, and like I think it's like it's almost like it's a gray area because there's options, versus there not being options. But like. I find it like something like American Fiction. I enjoyed it. I appreciated the movie, and I intend to backfill my catalog with it.
Yeah.
Right. But I've been on the fence figuring out like how do I want to buy movies going forward? Like, do I want to buy a digital copy? Do I want to buy a physical copy? And I don't know the answer.
That's where I'm at right now. Where when I said before, like I don't want to pay. Like again, it has nothing to do with that movie. I don't want to buy it on Amazon,
right?
Digitally or whatever. Like, because like there's a good amount of that's going to Amazon, which like I pay for their subscription already. Like,
well, there is also
fine.
the fact that it can go away.
Well, that's the thing, is I am a little worried, like, seeing all those things. I think there is a little bit of paranoia with all of those things, but not entirely. Like, there's real, like, valid criticisms as well.
There is, but it's more the principle that ends up making me not want to buy it. There.
Yeah, and like, so I haven't bought a movie in a few years now. Like, my collection isn't quite yours, but behind me you can see a whole bunch of very good. It's an Oppenheimer 4K. Behind me you can see there's a whole bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays and 4Ks as well. Not as impressive a collection as yours, but a pretty substantial one as well.
Yeah, good collection.
I haven't added to it in the last. I think the last thing I bought was Tenet, and that. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, so I'm with you, and I was confused, and I didn't know what to do. And in the last 3 years, I kept going on. I was on the fence. I was like, do I buy a digital copy? Do I buy a movie? I bought a couple digital. I bought a couple movies. I didn't buy some, and I just watched them on streaming, and it felt weird. And I was like, I purchased this movie as like a kick in the butt. I was like, I'm going until they stop actually printing the discs. I think I'm going to try to buy physical.
The thing is, I'm not afraid of them stopping printing the discs. I'm afraid of them stopping giving me things that have drives.
Oh, that's fair. I don't intend on watching these on the disc though. I'm gonna rip them to my server.
Sure, and so I think ultimately maybe somewhere down the line, I will have to set up my own like Plex server or something like that.
Definitely.
To house what I have back here and what else I might want to continue to buy. And I probably should start doing it sooner than later. It doesn't feel immediately important.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
But like long term, it's something I probably would like to maintain my own thing. But even there,
like your curated collection.
There's that fear that even that can just go away because it just stops working or something one day. You know what I mean? Like, it could happen.
Sure. Yeah, you have to build it in such a way that it's more resilient, which is what that's actually what I haven't ripped them yet. I still haven't been collecting them, and I will watch the digital copy that I get with the physical disc. Which that's the other thing. I could buy this, or I could buy just the digital copy, and they're the same price.
Yeah,
but this has a digital copy.
Yes.
So it's like
which if I had my druthers years ago, I would have done that, because all those Blu-rays that you bought over the years, most of them came with a digital copy, but it expires. It's like, I think most of them think it's no good anymore, but
yeah, whatever. I think that, and I think that's maybe the thing that bothers me is like what you're like they screwed up with their pricing model. It's not my fault. They screwed it up. Mm-hmm. And I think that the fact that I could get the physical copy that includes the 4K Ultra, the 1080p Blu-ray, and the digital code for the same price as just buying a digital code that is not actually a thing, and they could be like, actually, you know what? We don't have the rights for this anymore, so you can't watch it.
Mm-hmm.
That is, and it's the same price? Fuck you. Right? Like, half the price. Half the price. You haven't given me anything except the right to stream it from your platform. You haven't given me a copy of it.
Essentially,
I didn't buy a copy of it. I licensed the ability to watch it from your machine. It drives me. It's nuts. It's insane.
And people wondered why everyone was like laughing at NFTs.
Yeah.
Because you're describing an NFT.
So it's so frustrating. Anyway,
so
then I was like, wait, but now I've decided I'm going to buy physical copies. It's like, where am I going to get them now? That's the other problem. Turns out there is a website that still sells movies consistently, which is good. So I'll go there. And also Target, great option for buying movies if you're not familiar. They like, between the fact that they're usually on sale, and then also Kim has like one of those Target cards that you get 5% off all purchases. So it's
okay.
I mean, it makes sense to buy them through Target for that reason alone.
So actor in a leading role.
Actor in a leading role. I didn't get to see Rustin. I was really interested in watching it. That being said, Coleman Domingo is like one of those, like, he is like a thespian. Like, he like, and I don't have to see it. Like, if he's in something and he's up, it's like, yeah, that probably makes sense. Like, I don't have to see it. Like, he's good. Like,
I didn't know him. I didn't know him then, but I remember thinking at the time, this guy is acting way too hard for Fear the Walking Dead.
Right? Yeah. You don't deserve this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm totally good with him being nominated. I did not see the movie. I don't know if I will. I literally know nothing about it. Is it? It's a biopic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't think so. It is.
I literally know one thing about it.
Yeah. On the topic of, so the only other person that we have, because neither of us saw Maestro, Bradley Cooper. I read a little bit about his why, the why,
Okay.
because Kim's question with Maestro, she's like hasn't wanted to watch it this whole time, and I'm like, I get it, like I don't really want to watch it either, but like I want to watch it because it's on the list. And then we read into it a little bit. It's like she's like, why should I care about this? And it's like his obsession with conducting, which is interesting that I did not know about, and his affinity towards it since he was a small child. That started with the Tom and Jerry episode where Tom is conducting the orchestra. That's the history. I was like, okay, I'm already captivated by this.
So it's Tar but real.
Yeah. Yes.
Which I still haven't seen that movie, and I probably never will. But
that was last year.
Last year or the year before? I think it was last year.
Oh God,
yeah.
That feels like it was. Yeah. Well, anyway, Bradley Cooper's good though. So if he I think that Cillian Murphy's going to take it though. Based on
this is the truest coin flip I think of all of them, because there's a lot of indicators for if someone wins X award prior to the Oscars, there's a good chance they win the Oscars. But this one is almost a perfect split because Giamatti and Murphy, each of them won. I think one of them won the SAG Awards, and the other one won the Critics' Choice or some shit. I forget. It was something stupid like that. So
I think Cillian won the Golden Globe as well as the SAG, so that's why I think that it's probably him.
Well, Giamatti won one of them. Globe? No, Giamatti won the Golden Globe. That was the whole thing with him sitting at the In-N-Out with the
Never
trophy.
Mind. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so yeah, I don't. Yeah, then it is a toss up probably.
Yeah,
and I do think the Academy has a certain affinity for him.
So. Well, and that's what I've heard is because he's been a working actor in Hollywood for so long, and because of who he is as a guy, apparently, as part of the Academy, crew is a big part of that voting as well, and apparently over the decades he's really endeared himself to that subsect of the voting, which is why a lot of people think he will win.
I don't know. That's kind of awesome.
That's what I've heard. I love that. I don't know, but that's what I've heard. Yeah. Whereas Cillian Murphy, good actor, has been around for a while, but is from the UK and has been in American productions, but not in the same way that Giamatti has. So. Now, his contemporary actors, which are now a much bigger part of the Academy than they used to be, I guess, sorry, let me rephrase that. The actors, which are the largest subsect of the voters in the Academy, if they have taken a liking to his performance, may choose him. I don't know.
So who do you want to win? Who do you think's going to win?
I'm cool with either one of the two of them winning it, honestly. I think they're both really good. I think they're both cool stories. They're both kind of unconventional on the scale of what we think of a leading man would be, and what the star of a movie or what the thespian actor would be. But I don't know. I'd be cool with any of them because I don't dislike any of these actors. I like all of these actors. That's
always a fun category. It's anybody take it. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
I think that I think I want Cillian Murphy to win it, but
okay.
I don't know why. I like him. All right, next up,
actress in a leading role. We have Annette Bening, Naiad, Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Huller, Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan, Maestro, Emma Stone, Poor Things.
Of the movies that I've seen, there's a clear winner. And even if that weren't the case, I would still feel strongly about picking Emma Stone.
This is, I think, possibly another toss-up, actually, because, and I forget which awards it was, but there was a split
Lily
where
Gladstone, yeah.
Lily's won some of them, but then Emma won the last big one. I think it was the SAG Awards. Oh no, sorry, I have to think of the way around. No, Lily won it, right? It was like and it was like a whole thing because everyone thought Emma was going to win it, right? And
I don't really know.
They showed her when they were announcing it, and everyone really liked that she was like applauding furiously when
she's like pumped.
Yes, when Lily won it, which was cool. Again, both of them were really deserving.
I still have to see Killers of the Flower Moon, but
both of them are really deserving. I hope Lily wins. She's the first Native actor or actress to be nominated for a lead role. Cool. I don't remember if any of them have ever been for supporting, but for sure lead. She crushed it. I mean, she was incredible. Again, I was talking earlier, it's just a devastating movie, and her job being the foremost conveyor of that pain and devastation and then the very specifics of her story too. Which so
she's the only one that can usurp my pick because I haven't seen it yet, and when I do see it, I will have more to say. But I'm going to go down the line real quick. Annette Bening, don't like your face. Sandra Hüller, the Kim and I feel this have had this conversation where we don't know what it is. I can't even look past the performance. She annoys me. I don't know what it is. There's certain actors that annoy me.
I think I've only ever seen her in two things, I want to say. American Beauty and the Miss Marvel, not Miss Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. Sorry.
Yeah, I know it annoys me. That's the, so it's just an immediate no, and I can't figure it out. Sandra Hüller, it was a good performance. I think actually probably there's nuance to the performance, especially in Anatomy of a Fall compared to her role in we just talked about it, Zone of Interest. Wow. But I get it. I get the nod. I get the nominee. It's not my pick. Carey Mulligan is one of those actors who I never get it. I don't get it. Up a lot, nominated a lot, and I just don't get it.
Oh, I mean, I thought she was great in Promising Young Woman.
Wait, was she in that?
Is that not her? Is she not the star of that movie? Am I thinking of the wrong actress?
Is she? Because if so, then I take it back. Pause as we look up the actor.
Yeah, that's her.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I take it back. I get that role. Other roles that I've seen her in, I did not get. Is that really her?
She was in Saltburn, and she was. You
know what?
Promising Young Woman. You're thinking of someone else. Who are you thinking of?
I think I might be thinking of somebody else. Hang on. Let me look her up real quick. No, I am thinking of this person. I just didn't realize that was her in Promising Young Woman.
Oh.
Okay, I'll take it back for that movie, but it stands for the rest. I haven't seen Maestro though, so I can't really judge. Emma Stone, I was like, Poor Things is going to be an absolute train wreck. This is going to be the movie that I watched this year that I'm going to be pissed about. That why did I watch this? Then I watched it and I was like, I think I get
it. She was good. It was just such a that movie.
It's all over the place.
Yeah,
but intentionally so. I don't know. I feel like it was different characters in that movie.
It was intentional for sure. I know, and with the Naiad thing, Annette Bening, I haven't seen the movie. I don't really have any interest in seeing the movie. I remember that story unfolding in real life. I have also read the supporting stuff in recent years where a lot of people have a lot of skepticism towards her accomplishments in real life. So best just to probably leave that one off to the side.
I don't want to be. Hang on, I'm gonna pull this up, and I don't want to come off as I don't know, naive or rude, but I want to read something to you. This is the exact conversation that Kim and I had. Okay, we were like, well, let's look at these movies, let's look at these actors, the actresses, the best picture, the nominees, and try to figure out which ones we're going to watch. And this one came up because of the actress nominee, and it was The Remarkable True Story of Athlete Diana Naiad, who at the age of 60 and with the help of her best friend and coach commits to achieving her lifelong dream, a 110-mile open ocean swim from Cuba to Florida. And I read that whole thing and went, remarkable? I was like, I don't know anything about it, but I don't care. Like, I don't care enough to watch it. I don't. I mean, maybe I feel like there's got like for it to get the recognition. I was like, there's got to be more to this than that synopsis.
I mean, the whole thing was she was trying to do it for like 20 years.
Cool.
I mean,
It's not
110 miles across open sea is pretty impressive if you do it.
It's just a why thing to me, though. Like I don't know.
So
it's like scaling a building.
So
cool.
There's two big.
You did it.
There's two big ones that I'm aware of. I think she tried both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Is swimming the English Channel and swimming between Cuba and Florida. And she's not the only one who's done those. Many people have attempted it. A handful of them have accomplished it. There's skepticism as to whether she did it properly.
Again, even that, like, it's like even more the reason for me to be like, I don't give a fuck.
Well, which is why I ultimately haven't put an emphasis on watching the movie.
But I was like, I read that synopsis and I was like, that's the movie. And it was Annette Bening. I was like, no, there's nothing driving me towards seeing this.
If I win the lottery, I'm going to make a movie starring Michael Shannon and Annette Bening.
No. Well, hang on. I mean, joke's on you.
You're coming around on Michael Shannon. I know.
Hey, this is my nightmare.
I'm gonna make a movie.
And what's it about though? It's like a tightrope walking between two buildings. I don't care. Like,
no, I'm gonna find something that pisses you off. I'll be fair to you. It's gonna star Annette Bening, Michael Shannon, and Ben Affleck, and
okay. And Carey Mulligan, but the jury's out on whether or not I'm.
I gotta find a topic that's really gonna get under your skin.
It's the making of the fandom thread.
It's gonna be like it's gonna be the disaster artist of the making of fandom thread.
Oh man, it's just a documentary about poisonous mushrooms. Oh. All right. Move. Okay,
Yeah.
so Lily Gladstone, though you said it's a performance, though.
Yeah, very strong,
okay.
Very strong.
Cool, awesome. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see the movie. So,
all right, actor in a supporting role. We got Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction. Robert De Niro, Killers. Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer. Ryan Gosling, Barbie. Mark Ruffalo, Poor Things.
So, starting at the top, Sterling K. Brown, great performance, strong role. Okay. Really, it's like. He plays a middle-aged man, divorced and recently out of the closet, making up for lost time.
Okay. Oh,
while his family is going through some complicated things, and it's I don't know. It's funny and sad and like like a train wreck, but he's like but it's somehow still on the tracks. It's a strong performance. Robert De Niro, thoughts?
This is the first thing he was really good in like years.
Okay,
that I've seen anyway, because he's made a lot of crap the last 10 years, maybe longer than that. I don't know. Although actually, you know what? I didn't mention it earlier, but I watched that Sebastian Maniscalco movie. De Niro was alright in that.
Okay,
he's still kind of cheesy De Niro. I mean, he certainly has not gone full Pacino, but like the last...
You never go full Pacino.
You never go full Pacino. The last 10 years, he's made a lot of crap. With like only one or two good roles mixed in there. This is a good role. He's really good in it. Downey Jr., we talked about it earlier. He's very good in it. Yeah. But he's also Robert Downey Jr.
He's him. Yeah, he's him as the role, not the role portrayed by him. I don't know. It's weird. Ryan Gosling's my pick, and then
Ryan Gosling was good in Barbie, but he's also kind of Ryan Gosling.
I don't know.
It's Ryan Gosling being silly, but it's still kind of Ryan Gosling. I'm like, he's good. He's good.
Yeah.
But I actually really liked Ruffalo in Poor Things, or at least let me say, I think he played against type. I think that's not a typical Ruffalo role.
Yeah, that's fair.
He disgusted me utterly and completely
Yeah.
he also cracked me up occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
but he's so gross, and then he's so pathetic.
Yeah, and pulls it off.
Yeah.
I agree. For me, and yeah, I get the nominee. For me, it's Ryan Gosling. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Ruffalo should win, but I am happy that he got a little bit of acclaim for this. For me, I would give it to De Niro with the caveat that I didn't see American Fiction. So
sure, that's fair.
Let's do actress in a supporting role.
Yeah,
if I can. Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer. Danielle Brooks, The Color Purple. America Ferrera, Barbie. Jodie Foster, Naiad. Divine Joy Randolph, The Holdovers.
So, of the 3 performances that I've seen, I would pick Divine Joy Randolph.
Yeah, because I didn't see the same to you. I didn't see Foster or Brooks. I felt like they didn't really give Emily Blunt lots to do.
That's why I was really confused that she was nominated.
Yeah, this is probably the weakest category because I also thought that America Ferrera's fine overall, but they didn't give
nothing
her
I don't think it was a stand. It was similarly with Emily Blunt, right? There was not much to do with the role.
Well, let me be clear with at least with the Ferrera one. Most of the role they didn't give her much to do. She does have one standout scene. The scene where she gives the monologue.
The speech.
She's fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's really well executed, but that's not enough to win.
I don't think you should get an Oscar for a moment.
Yeah.
If you do, then Oppenheimer wins by a landslide for Best Picture because of the final 30 seconds. Right? I don't think that that's the reason it should win. I think it's the whole thing.
Like it's nice to have a standout moment in support of an overall performance where the performance is great and that's your Oscar moment where that's the scene they're playing on the screen when they read the nominees.
Sure.
And that will be her moment, but that was kind of it for the role.
Right. And then also my question then becomes, is that more the writing and directing though than the performance?
Well, it's all.
I feel like it was the words though. It was the words and what they did on screen more than the delivery of the words.
I find it hard to pull out what's what there. I think it's all of it working in a perfect synergy. It's she's great, the direction's great, the writing's great. I don't know how you assign which of those is more better or more important. The scene itself does not have the impact it has if all those things don't work in perfect concert together.
That's fair.
For me it would be Divine Joy Randolph, but
Divine.
Well, I turned Divine Joy into Divine. Yeah. Now I almost have the opposite argument with her, where I didn't feel like she had one specific moment she crushed it in, but I thought she did it was really good and consistent throughout.
I think she was really good and consistent throughout, but the moment that I feel she crushed it is the breakdown scene at the party. Yeah,
I mean she was good in that.
Because it wasn't overstated that I feel like it's a standout scene. It was real.
To me, that would almost be like what you would show for your. It's up between that and the scene where Paul Giamatti goes to bat for him with the dean, but one of those two scenes would be the one you'd show for Best Picture.
Right.
Yeah, and so again, it's kind of the ensemble. She's good, but so is Giamatti, and so is the young guy, and so is the other guy too, who was in and out of their story. I thought that all of them together really made that scene. She's really good in it, but it wasn't just a standout scene for her. It was how they all play off of each other in that scene that I thought was really strong. So I think she should win, but I just don't think it's a great grouping this year, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. No.
What other ones do we want to hit? Do we want to hit some screenplay ones?
Yeah, let's see. Cinematography, I'm curious about. I don't know what
we got
Conde is, but
yeah, I have no El Conde. I don't know what that is. Killers of Fire Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things.
From what I've seen, I could guess that Maestro is probably a pretty is pretty standout for this, but Oppenheimer for me is is the front runner. Granted, I've seen at least clips of all of these except for the first one. And I've seen some, like most of the actual, well, actually not most. I've seen 2 of the actual things. Oppenheimer, I do think that it is standout cinematography.
Yeah.
But it always is. It always is in a Nolan movie.
Yeah, well, and specifically Hoyt van Hoytema is...
Yeah.
I mean, with a name like that, you can't forget it, but it's a name that I know, and I don't know a ton of cinematographers. I mean, Roger Deakins, other people. So, yeah, I mean, of the 3... I saw the 3 movies in this category. All 3 of them, I think, have a couple of tremendous... I mean, there are some shots in Poor Things that are really incredible. I mean, that sequence when they're in Greece and, like, she, like, leaves the hotel to go like down the staircase, and the way that whole thing is shot, showing that the disparity between all the people there, like that's incredible, amongst like a whole bunch of other sequences as well. But like that's a real standout one to me.
Also, the choice to do like the peephole camera for like certain scenes was interesting.
Yeah,
like fly on the wall, like you're like observing as like the data collector for the experiment. It's, I don't know. There's something cool about that.
I don't know. I mean, I suspect this will again come down to Oppenheimer Killers of the Flower Moon, but like, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with either of those. So
yeah, I wanted to touch on costume design for a quick second because this is a thing that gets me every year. And Oppenheimer's up for costume design. I'm like, it's clothes. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's older suits. It's older. So same. I mean, yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, I mean Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, both of those are true. Yeah, this one to me, and I mean
Napoleon, it's the hat.
It's a period piece, so like it's even more so, I guess, old timey suits. To me, flip a coin between Barbie and Poor Things. Both of them, like visually stunning, out of the ordinary. Like there's a lot of work that goes into doing. I mean, like there is something to be said for making a costume that's really accurate to a time period. Like there is something to that. But to me, like they turned it up to fucking, forget about 11. They turned it up to 12 or 15, I don't know, on the costumes in Barbie and Poor Things, and both of them were ridiculous. Look, snap a pool cue in half, throw it in the middle, let the 2 of them fight out for it.
Yeah. We're having tryouts. Again, hairstyling in Oppenheimer, funny to me. You can do old hairstyles. Cool.
You want to do original score? How about that?
Yeah, where are we at here? Original score. We got American Fiction, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. I'm gonna go again. I have to go with Oppenheimer. Ludwig Göransson, like it's just an easy pick for me every time I hear his music. And also, I listen to movie scores when I'm working, and I have a playlist that is auto updated that like it changes like periodically with like the stuff that's coming out. A lot of these things have ended up on that list, but there are times where I go, "Ooh, what's that?" And multiple times it's been Oppenheimer or Dune, or like there's like certain ones that like pop out to me. They're like Oppenheimer was one. I was like, so I have to go with that because it's the Indiana Jones one popped up a couple times and it's good. I think Killers of the Flower Moon popped up. I'm not sure the American Fiction one did or the Poor Things ones, but the Oppenheimer one is one of the ones that stopped me in my tracks and went, I have to figure out what that's from.
All right.
So,
well, let's do original screenplay.
Okay.
You have Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives.
Interesting.
I suspect The Holdovers will win for this.
Yeah.
And that's the one I would be in pretty heavy support of. I mean, we've talked about they were nominated for a good handful of things, but I thought that was a really strong script. It's not my strong suit overall, but like every once in a while there's a movie that, whether it be word choice, whether it be the way they build entire sentence structures in a conversation, I gravitate towards some of those things occasionally. I thought The Holdovers was pretty strong with some of that stuff. I mean, I saw there's just some little things in their interactions with like the playing over and under like the levels of formality that they refer to each other with, and how they start to inject like the warmth of their relationship blooming as you see like they're still using some of the same formal titles, but the way the language evolves during the course of it as they actually are like interacting with each other. I don't know. I thought some of that was really strong, so I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I'm down with it. That would be my pick of the ones that I've saw.
I will say wasn't like totally enamored of the movie. It was a good movie. If you were going to nominate it for something, Past Lives for script, I did think, even though it was not a super talky movie at all times, there's long periods of time where there's no one talking at all. But some of the framing of these like important conversations these people are having during snapshots of their life, and the weight of their words directed to each other, and seeing how carefully, like, you can think of important conversations you've had in life and how you have to like carefully select what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And that again kind of ties up into into script and in direction and into acting, because some of the pregnant pauses in those things, in those interactions, I found myself like I was waiting to see what was going to come next into how they were going to like adapt or like evolve what each interaction they were having.
That's fair.
It was an interesting movie for how the script unfolded.
I mean, you said it already. Like, if it were to win one of these categories, this would be the one that you'd feel most comfortable with. I was trying to put my finger on it last night because we watched Past Lives last night, and I was like, I liked that. I was like, it's not a best picture, I don't think. But not to dismiss the movie though. I thought the movie was good, and I was like, you know what it is? It's a really good movie for March. It's not award season movie in my opinion, and it's not like gonna stand out in blockbuster season. But like when there's that lull, that movie lull, and you have like the appetite and the time for a little bit of like a slower, kind of real character exploration, story doesn't go anywhere movie, like it's good. It's good for that. It's a March movie.
I will say I don't think there was room for either of them in the category, but both the two leads were really strong performers. And like I think that's noteworthy when you're watching a movie that predominantly is taking place in another language.
Yeah, especially Nora though.
It's funny because and I thought she was great. There were certain things that I actually gravitated more towards with Haesung, because
really, I mean, I thought he was really good. I think for me, it's that the actress that plays Nayoung Nora is in the morning show, and
she was in something else too. I was reading
insufferable at times, where it's like that was not present at all, and like it was like, oh, you're good at this job, because you're playing a completely different character, and there's no hint of the other characters that you play. Robert Downey Jr. There's the Robert Downey Jr. through line, right?
Yeah,
but like there's no hint of the other character that I know you as, and that's impressive to me.
Yeah, I did really like her in this. What caught me about him was he was trying to be so like stereotypically stoic. I mean, she talks about it a bit when she's talking to her husband about how he's
so Korean,
in so many ways. But even when he won't say, the emotions playing across his face, there are sequences where he won't say anything, or he'll let the mask slip for just a second and then turn back to that blank face that he's trying to show to the rest of the world. And like in a movie again that like is very economical with its words at times, I thought some of what he did with his facial acting was really was pretty incredible. It's a high degree of difficulty, and when you're talking about a foreign language film, like the dubbing, like it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of viewing, but it does probably affect my ability to evaluate performances, or at least it makes me look for different things, because I can't tie the emotions of what they're saying to the words I'm reading on the screen. So when I notice how they affect emotion, it is in other less conventional things from when you're evaluating an actor, in my opinion.
Mm.
And I think she probably had a tougher task because she's half of it. It's funny, almost like she almost has a split personality. Like she is the stoic Korean when she's with him, whereas she allows herself to be more vulnerable and emotional for most of the movie when she's talking in English to her American husband until that final sequence when the two things like converge and crash around her.
Yeah, that was I feel like the movie was this is in the list of devastating movies just because it's like it was such a heavy.
No one died.
Concept, yeah, but it was such an emotional concept, and it's just like that choice to have her break down at the end without Haesun was. I was like, wow. I was like, that was. I don't know. That was good. Like that was like really. There was like the two characters are so tied throughout their lives, even though they're like so separated the whole time.
In Yun.
Yeah, but that was good. I enjoyed that. Also, when they said Anyang, we couldn't.
I know.
We just couldn't stop.
I was like, oh god! I did it was the Leo from what's it called from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he points at the screen.
Yeah,
Anyang.
That was good.
All right, let's do adapted screenplay, and then so you got American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest.
I don't know.
Well, at least you've seen all 5 of these. I mean, I've seen 3 of them. So.
I feel like for me, it's the screenplay of Oppenheimer that is lacking because it doesn't stand up to the other screenplays of Nolan movies. So like that's not necessarily fair against the rest of the category. I think it's strong, but against his own work, it doesn't stand out to me, which like kind of puts it aside. I was when I saw Poor Things was on this list, I was like, what? I was like, 2 people are that into this? Like what? So there's that. I will say I'm gonna go, and this is how I feel like I usually judge this topic. I'm gonna go American Fiction on this one because I had no idea that was adapted. It felt original.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sorry, you said that was for American Fiction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I've never read the book. I don't really know much about the book. I've read one article kind of alluding to the fact that they didn't love some of the ways they changed that book. I don't know. I don't have an opinion because I haven't read it or seen it yet. That's an interesting way to look at it. For me, it's still so weird that Barbie is an adapted screenplay because it's based on IP. I guess
that is a weird. Yeah, I don't love the lumping of this category.
Yeah, and I know the rules are always like we got to try and figure them out. Remember, there was one like 2 years ago where we were trying to figure out like why it was adapted screenplay or something like that.
Yeah, it was because it was a sequel.
Oh, was that what it was? Okay.
Yep. And we were like, boo, not a good reason. Boo.
Yeah, I just realized now, I was looking up, sorry, I was a little distracted for the last minute or two. I didn't realize Poor Things was adapted for, was nominated for adapted screenplay. I didn't realize it was based on a specific book.
Yeah.
It's very clearly Frankenstein-esque but it's not directly adapted from Frankenstein, I guess.
Sure.
I didn't realize there was some other book that someone wrote.
Yeah, me neither.
Because it was very clearly meant to be a reimagining of Frankenstein.
Right.
I have a lot more thoughts, or at least a lot more things I'd like to discuss about that movie. I don't know if it's one that I want for the show per se, or if it's something just you and me can talk about. But
yeah,
it's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know what? Why don't we just try to hold off for another minute? Let's talk about it a little bit more at Best Picture time.
Okay. Well, we already talked about Best Picture.
I guess we did go through all of them by going through all these other categories.
Yeah.
We never, because we hadn't touched on some of them. All right, I'll pause here for a second. There is one thing. So, like, I think we've talked about this. There's movies that are like weird and it's interesting, and then there's certain things that are weird for the sake of being weird. And this movie does both of those things.
Yeah.
And it's when it's weird for the sake of being weird that I'm like, go away.
Yeah, and that was...
Take your gas bubble and go home. Like, I don't... Like, what are you doing?
Oh, honestly, the gas bubble was way down the list on those things for me. Like, it's in that category, but way down the list. It's... This is what I was getting at when I was talking earlier about, like, having some things I would ding Lanthimos for with this movie. Some of the weird just for weird's sake, and, like, even... There's something so transgressive about this whole story. Like, in some ways, it's kind of heartwarming and beautiful, this whole story about this person getting a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
The other hand, I mean, there's a lot of people that are, like, at least ethically, if not legally, committing sexual crimes in, like, engaging in sex with this person, who physically is an adult, but mentally and emotionally very clearly is not.
Yep.
I was a little worried early on that this was going to go down the route of the Defoe character abusing her, and I was very glad that he very clearly was not doing that. So that was okay.
Except for the fact that the explanation wasn't that he would never, it was that he can't. I didn't love that.
I didn't love that, but at a certain point, I suppose doing the right thing, even for the wrong reasons, is still doing the right thing.
I guess.
It's a very flimsy defense.
Yeah.
One I don't feel like spending a lot of time on defending. It's just, at the end of the day, I'm just happy that it didn't happen, is my point.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But that being said, a lot of other people seem to very gleefully take to the fact that she is not someone who would... It's not someone who is able of making the type of choices that another adult person would be capable of making.
Mm-hmm.
And the later in the story goes, like, yeah, that she does certainly gain a substantial amount of agency and all that, I suppose. But the first half of the movie, she doesn't have that.
Right.
And she's having a lot of sex during that time.
Yeah.
And that feels wrong to me.
Yep.
That is as subjective as it gets, I guess, in some ways. The whole premise is ridiculous because I don't know that you could take an infant's brain and put it into an adult body and it work. You know, so like...
You can't, but go on.
Almost certainly not. But I suppose if you're going to suspend your disbelief enough to engage with that to allow the rest of the movie to occur, you got to take the rest of it on the merits, I suppose. And I was pretty uncomfortable with that. It feels like this movie would have fit better in the more densely edgelord time of like 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Yeah, there is something about these weird movies, like this movie or like a Guillermo del Toro movie, of like, it's like 70% of it I'm on board. Like, it's interesting and curious. And then there's like the questionable aspects, like all of the ones that you brought up, though, where it's like, this doesn't seem right. Something else, like, they're not saying that this is happening, but it's happening. So it's not right, and it's concerning. Like, I don't know, Shape of Water. Like, I kind of get it, but like the scene between the woman and the monster, like, it's like I understand like the love and the connection, but it's like it's almost like you wanted it to be a little bit weird. Like, I don't know, there's just strangeness in these movies that like it feels like it's like a movie on the dark web. Like, it feels like I'm not really, I shouldn't watch it. Like, I'm not sure if we should be watching this.
I will say,
like,
if we're gonna draw a line, if we're forced to draw a line in The Shape of Water, that thing is just not real, right? Like, it just does not exist.
Right.
Versus, again, almost certainly couldn't happen that they would put the brain of an undeveloped, infant in an adult human body. But the end of the day, it is still a human who, I mean, you can almost use it as an insert of someone who's emotionally not fully developed or
Sure.
mentally not fully developed, because that's what this
Right.
person is.
Yeah,
Eventually, they will get
it
there.
can be
But
commentary in that way, but it's just
so I don't want to say it's like a fantasy in that way or a wish fulfillment in that way,
Mm-hmm.
but it forces the viewer to ask those questions. And I don't know
something's off.
I don't know that those are the questions you want your viewer to be asking. Is at the end of the day, that's the point I'm getting at.
Right. I'm with you.
And I'm not saying that this is the be all end all, or that you can't watch the movie or can't like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very interesting movie. It was a good movie, I guess. I did feel uncomfortable with substantial parts of it, though.
Yeah.
And I will appreciate, outside of those specific criticisms, it being super weird in good ways also, where it's like you're not going to see that anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be said for experiencing something you haven't experienced.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so funny. Like I watched it. I'm glad I watched it, though I have the context as we go into the award season. I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll necessarily ever watch it again, but I'm glad I got to experience it that one time and at least be able to. To me, it's a big thing. I try not to have anymore. I'm sure I was guilty of this in the past. I try not to have super strong opinions on things that I have not engaged with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's something that has grown very frustrating to me when people will loudly praise or downgrade something that they haven't actually experienced. Like, once you've earned your experience with it, once you've paid your $10 or $20 and you sat in the theater and watched the movie, you can have whatever opinions you want on it.
Yep.
I just, so for me, that's part of why we do all this. I mean, like, I like to be as informed as I can for this episode, but really, if I'm going to sit down and watch the Oscars with you, I want to have opinions on the movies. I'm not going to have those opinions if I haven't seen them.
Yeah. Yeah. I brought this up before the movie, and I want to bring it up now since we've been talking about poor things for quite a bit. But there is the line that stuck with me that I don't have all the words of the line. It's just it's the spirit of it. Is Willem Dafoe's character dying and at a wedding, and he's been sitting or laying down for a good chunk of time now, but like he's up and he's walking into the room, and it's like, how did you do this? And it's something along the lines of heroin for the pain, this for that, and cocaine because I'm partial to it. And I just thought, I don't know, I just like he already had like can give you like the most deranged faces, and his crazy face in that movie with Willem Dafoe's deranged face under it, like making a face saying that he likes cocaine, was just really funny to me.
Yeah, he's good in it. He's classic Willem Dafoe. I mean, he's he's going to show up and bring it when he's on set.
Mm-hmm. I love how infuriated Bella makes the lawyer. What's Mark Ruffalo's character's name?
Oh, I don't remember.
Wow, how infuriating! Like she drives him absolutely crazy but she's so matter of fact and like kind of logical in a lot of the decisions that she's making. It's just that as you grow as an adult, logic gets mixed with emotion, and she doesn't have that. She's just doing things logically, and it's kind of funny. And he's just so pissed off about it all.
Yeah,
I got a good couple of chuckles at like the whole thing where I mean, definitely it's complex in the topics that you were talking about before, but she ends up going to a whorehouse to make money so that they can get out of the situation that they're in. But she has money sewed into her shirt. She was like, but it's an experiment. And he's just like, ah! Yeah, that was funny. And also turning, Chekhov's Victoria. That was she's going to come into play at some point. That was funny. What any other categories? We've got visual effects. I saw the creator was on there, and you had mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I mean, the Guardians movies always look decent. I don't know that one stood out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it stands out against some of the other Marvel movies that have not done well, but like
Sure.
from a visual effects standpoint. But
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning had some pretty believable things.
Yeah.
Especially since some of it was. I mean, a good chunk of it was practical too. Like at least the stunts. What else we got here? What other topics should we look into?
I mean, those are
I think we pretty much covered it all.
So those are the major categories that I tend to be interested in. There's a lot of the other categories that I respect that they go through them all and they award for them, but they're not things that I usually on a given year care about. So
no. Well, sir, I'm looking forward to watching this one with you on Sunday.
Me too.
Makeup and hairstyling. Oppenheimer. It's just so fun to me. Maestro. I haven't seen the movie yet, but that one. Let's let that one win. Because have you seen the pictures of Gary Oldman? What? No, Gary Oldman. That one was the one that took me by surprise in Oppenheimer. Have you seen the pictures of the scenes of Bradley Cooper as like older in the movie?
I was gonna say I had no idea Gary Oldman was in Maestro.
I had no idea Gary Oldman was in Oppenheimer until I was like, "What are you doing here, Mr. President?"
Yeah, it was a surprise.
That was a scene. Ugh.
Yeah.
And when Oppenheimer leaves, he's like, "Don't let that crybaby back in here." I was like, "You son of a bitch."
Sorry, what was your original question? You threw me off with the Gary Oldman thing.
Makeup and hairstyling. I was like, have you seen the scenes of Bradley Cooper in Maestro? Like,
I've just seen the picture with people were complaining about him having the prosthetic on his nose or whatever. So,
sure, whatever. All right. Well, I think that's it, right? You're the host of this episode, so you can take us out.
Oh yeah. No, that was pregnant pause for effect. Oh no, your stupid clipping thing doesn't let us do that, right?
No.
Happy Oscars, everyone. Good night.
Happy Oscars. And happy Oscars to you, sir.
Good night, everyone. Go to bed.